Hello, listeners, and welcome to the Pod Fruit, One Piece Through New Eyes. On today's episode, we will be discussing Volume 14, titled Instinct. Volume 14 covers chapters 18 through 126. I am the host, Michael, and with me, as always, we have our One Piece rookies, V and Dylan.
Hello.
Hello.
A quick reminder to join us on Twitter, Instagram, and Discord for all our latest announcements, information, and fun. We have fun here.
We do.
On Twitter, we are Pod Fruit, Instagram, Pod Fruit, and our Discord is linked in the description. We would also love it if you gave us a follow and a review. Let us know what you like or what you don't. So, let's begin. Today, I have a summary written by yours truly. No help from Viz this time. Volume 14 picks up after a bomb attack on the giant Dory. It is discovered that the attack was perpetrated by Baroque Works agents hiding on the island of Little Garden. The weakened giant is captured by Baroque Works agents Mr. 3 and its partner, Miss Golden Week. Zoro, Vivi, and Nami are also captured on Mr. 3's giant wax candelabra, where they are slowly turned into wax statues. Luffy, Usopp, and Karoo rush in to save them. Luffy battles Mr. 3, but is subdued by Miss Golden Week's enchanting paint. Usopp and Karoo attempt to melt the candelabra, holding their friends captive. They are soon freed, and with the help of their crew, they defeat the Baroque Works agents. And that is the summary for Volume 14. Today, V, you are going to start things off.
So chapter 118, someone's out there. So, first question right off the bat. I would like either one of you to explain to me what's going on in the intro image story. So what I'm thinking is it seems that Makino, I think is her name, is talking to Marines about Helmeppo and Kobe, who are now apparently badasses.
So Makino is the bartender from Luffy's island.
Right, is that her?
No, this is the little girl and her mother.
It looks like her a little.
It's the little girl who gave Zoro the sugar rice balls.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's her mother is like, hey, they're going off to train to become badass Marines, and she's throwing a temper tantrum because she doesn't want to lose her friends.
Okay. You know what? That makes sense, because I was utterly confused. I had no idea what was going on. Okay, yes. So last volume, I mentioned it before, and it comes up again a few times during this volume, especially in the former half of it. I'm getting more of the Attack on Titan art style that I mentioned in the last episode, with close-ups on eyes and body parts, and in this case, at the bottom of page 2, right off the bat, we see like the close-up on Dory's bulging eyes. And I really appreciate that. I can just imagine how deep his voice rumbles when he shouts at them and says, "You humans dare to trick the mighty Dory?" Like, because you gotta think, this guy's a giant. Like, literally. He's huge.
I mean,
right?
The first panel is a really good perspective of
right,
how
exactly.
big he
You can
really
see
is.
how big he is as compared to Luffy. And I can just imagine how thunderous and how powerful his voice is. And, like, with a quote like that, like, "You humans dare to trick the mighty Dory," it's pretty intense. Again, we spoke about this a little bit last volume, but in the next few pages, I have to admit that I had to zoom in a little bit to get an idea of what was actually going on in the pages. It was a lot of big movements, and it admittedly doesn't translate super clearly on paper, in my opinion. I'm gathering that Dory stops Luffy's attack by smacking him with his shield, and then Luffy grabs at a tree, he pulls himself towards it to attack Dory's sword attack, avoid Dory's sword attack, and then he catapults himself into Dory with the Gum rocket. That's what
that's the gist of it.
Yeah. But again, it feels like I'm trying to think of why that is, because I feel like in the past, these action scenes to me were a lot more clear. I'm wondering if it's not a result of, just trying to portray the difference in size between the two opponents, if it also has something to do maybe with the environment, like we can see at the bottom of page 5.
I was going to say
that
there's
a lot of trees, jungle. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I feel like
I think that's at least a part of it.
The action doesn't translate super well within how, like, lush the jungle is made to be expressed through the drawing,
yes.
Right? So a minor criticism. It's still a good action scene. I still like the way that it kind of unfolds and the tactics that Luffy uses. But I found it hard to ground myself in the action, and I had to really focus on it as I was.
That's one of my big bugaboos when there's just too.
I also think it's when he hits him with the shield, it's the way his shoulders are set. The way he's hitting with the shield, your shoulders would not be set swinging your arm across your body like that. Ow.
In that panel, his arm almost looks bendy, like he has a gum fruit.
Yeah.
I think it is a good example of sometimes how things can get a little chaotic.
Right.
What, you mean dynamic?
Too dynamic, actually.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's like one step past dynamic. And I guess it makes me, again, wonder how that would look like in the anime, if that would be any better in the anime. Yeah, but overall, like I said, not a bad action sequence, just a little confusing to me. I did enjoy the couple of shots over the bottom of pages 6 and 7 where Luffy collides into Dory and makes him lose his footing, and then the close-up of Dory's face in pain at the middle of page 7. To me, that was nicely drawn in that, like, the collision is drawn with plenty of very fine action lines, but that leads us into a shot that looks very still. It's like we get like the chaos and the action and how quickly everything moves in page 6, and then page 7 it's like it's suspended in time because there's no action lines. It's just as a still moment within the page.
Have you ever played Super Smash Bros. V?
Yes. Right.
Do you know sometimes how when you hit someone real hard, it like stops for a second? Like,
right. That's exactly the vibe I was getting. The action kind of drops, and then the action picks back up again and resolves with him screaming in pain. I felt like it was a clever way to convey the pace and the feeling of the sequence of events. And again, I just criticized how hard it was for me to follow the action in the previous pages, but I feel like this time it was rather cleverly done, in my opinion. Another cool shot at the top of page 9, as Dory collapses in the loud thum. Again, to me, it really conveys well how loud this would have been to just hear this giant collapse on the ground, like earth shattering, you know?
Yeah.
And again, it's the show of perspective because we see him rather small on the page, but then the perspective is so wide and you see the tiny little figure of Luffy right beside him. Or not right beside him. He would probably be a pretty decent distance away.
I think that's Vivi.
Is it Vivi? Okay.
I think
right,
Luffy's under
his foot.
He's been stuck. Yeah, you're right. That is Vivi. But see, it's so hard to tell because it's from so far away.
She's not wearing a wizard's hat or blue robes.
Damn it. Yeah, so I think Oda does really well at expressing things that we might not be able to perceive without the use of the onomatopoeia and the perspective, and I find that interesting. I have to be honest, I was not scared for Luffy. I was positive that he would handle being stomped. You know, at this point, he's gone through similar emotions so often that I no longer really fear for his life. Not in that way, anyway. We also get another good display of Luffy's kind of innocence when it comes to his relationships. Like, he just fought Dory to get him to calm down or rest, and now he's back to wanting to defend him and to find out who tampered with the ale that injured him. Like, he shifts super quickly from, okay, I'm gonna fight you, I'm gonna get you to relax, and now I'm back to my original, like, I'm back to my mission.
I mean, he had to do A before he could
yeah. Right. I guess what I appreciate from him is that when he's doing something, he's laser focused on it, but it also, like, he switches really quickly. It's it's the sprinkle. No, he doesn't just have a sprinkle. It's the handful of the tism.
Got it with the tism truck.
Yeah. Page 12. How dare they hurt the crocodile? He was just out there, living his best life, trying to eat something that clearly wasn't edible, and just Mr. Five and Miss Valentine barge in and fuck things up, and they hurt this innocent little guy.
Crocodile's an interesting word for what that I see.
Well, I mean, when you just get the shots of its head, yeah, that's what I'd assumed it was too.
Like,
I mean, on the previous page, he's standing on 2 feet.
His 2 legs. Yeah, on
feet.
his 2 hind legs. But he also doesn't look like any sort of dinosaur I know about.
He looks like a T-Rex.
No, his face is way too elongated for it to be a T-Rex.
A crocodile comes lumbering my way, it's catching around. I ain't playing. This thing can charge like 30 miles an hour. I ain't playing.
You can try to shoot around at it.
No, it's going to charge. I'm going to shoot it, yeah. always knew I'd thrive in Florida. Pow, 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 pow.
Just let him be. He wasn't hurting anyone. He wasn't doing anything. This is completely gratuitous.
Dylan goes to the Everglades, turns him into the Neverglades.
Hell yeah, brother.
The Neverglades. No.
2 M16s on my back, a Rambo headband, knife in my teeth.
Let him be.
I drew first blood.
They're part of a very, very delicate ecosystem, and you don't just let him be. Just let him be. He wasn't doing anything wrong. Okay.
Just don't come near me. I know I look tasty, but like a little snack.
Yeah, whole meal.
I won't put a little apple in your mouth. Have you cosplay as a suckling pig?
This is getting weird. This is getting really weird.
Is that someone's kink?
Dylan's just like, I don't know what to say.
I'm uncomfortable. I'm in danger.
I'm in danger. Yeah, so we find out that Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week's hideout is on Little Garden, that they've been waiting for the giants to die/kill each other to collect the bounty for the both of them, and they stand to make a lot of money. And honestly, that's not a bad strategy if you think about it. Both of them are bound to fight, like by honor, by tradition, by curse, by whatever you want to call it. They are bound to fight, and one of them is bound to kill the other. So,
well,
I mean, they've been at it for a while. Time. Yeah. It's been taking a while, but it's not like, you know, one could reasonably think that it would happen, and therefore you could just swoop in and collect the loot. So, you know, and they're terrible people, so they end up being even more terrible people as this volume progresses, to be honest. Mr. 3 goes on a fucking
so many
journey.
Ways.
I know. And yeah, so sure enough, the volcano erupts again, and the giants respond. So I wanted to be a little bit, and that's in retrospect, now reading my notes back from when I wrote them. At that moment, I wanted to be a bit critical of Brogy, because at first I was thinking that it wasn't very sportsmanlike to accept to fight an enemy that's already hurt, but I don't think he knows. Well, we find out at that point. I didn't think that he knew, but we find out that he actually didn't know that he was injured. And then even if he did, to a certain extent, if they truly think that this is their destiny, then so be it. But in this,
the volcano says go, you
right,
gotta go.
Exactly. But in this specific instance, we do find out later on that Brogy did not know that Dory was injured, or at least not to the extent that he was. And, the very last panel of this chapter, of Dory's face with his teeth gritted in pain, streaks of blood oozing from his eyes and his mouth, that was a great shot. The way that he smiles through it and the way that he's drawn actually kind of creeped me out. And just shout out to the way that just the letters are drawn when he says, "I am the warrior Dory, I cannot disgrace the name of Alphab." The combination of what he says, the conviction with which he says it, but also the pain that is expressed in the way that it's written was super powerful. And I feel like that does a great job at portraying the kind of people or the kind of giants that they are bound to honor, and that there's no backing down from this, and that there's still pride and there's still determination despite the amount of, like, the agony that he must be in. Super, super powerful. Like, it ended on a really high note for me. That last page, or that last panel, for me was excellent.
The blood always is always done well. It's always so thick, so dark. It's pooling in natural places. Yeah. It's dribbling down. It makes sense
that it would look like that, yeah.
And it stands out. It just stands out against the other colors in his face.
Yeah. That's all I had for 118. Overall, pretty good. This volume, just preemptively saying, this volume to me goes through some ups and downs. But
oh yeah.
The way that this ended was a big up for me. Dylan?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that last statement. I kind of felt it to be a little lackluster compared to a lot of what we've seen.
The volume as a whole, you mean?
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
But it makes sense how Luffy is fighting him, since he drank the ale and it blew up in his stomach. He's like, all right, I'm going to hit you with body shots, because it's going to affect you a lot more and faster, because you're already torn up pretty hard inside, which, if you're just trying to knock him out, not a great idea, because you're probably getting closer to fucking killing him.
Right.
Because when your guts are torn up, then you're taking blunt force trauma.
His insides already, be, like, bleeding.
Yeah.
Like, internal bleeding for sure.
The detail that Dory, when he gets hit and after he stomps Luffy, he's like, devil fruit powers. So that explains what you are. I find it interesting that even the giants are aware of devil fruit powers, and also makes me think, are there any giants who have devil fruit powers? That would be really cool to see. So if they do go to Elbaf, maybe we'll get to see that.
It's a giant with the small fruit, so he's the size of a normal.
Yeah, it's just a normal guy. It's a normal dude.
Technically, I'm a giant.
I just eat the smooth fruit. But I love the fact that when Luffy sits up and it's like, Vivi's like, oh my god, are you hurt? And he's like, how's the giant? That's the first thing he says. And kind of really shows you who Luffy is. Also, when he sits up and goes, hop. Then we get to see the stupid wax building and the dinosaur bite its teeth out. And then we get to find out, yay, another fucking fake out death. Huzzah, I love those so much. They said, last volume, Mr. 3 said, Mr. 5 is...
Mr. 3 had no way of knowing,
He said Mr. 5 is dead.
He was going off of secondhand information.
Still, I have a feeling that having one of the characters in the organization be like, they're dead. And then being like, oh, you're here.
Get your fake out deaths for sure.
It's like,
I don't feel like this was one.
This is a half fake out. Like, I get where Dylan is coming from because it was like announced, but then again, like you said, Michael, there was no way for us to be certain, or for Mr. 3 to be certain.
For me, it was like, are you fucking serious?
So let me ask you something, Dylan. Which power would you rather have between the two male antagonists here?
Oh, definitely the Nespalm stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that's so like. Because I can already tell you right now, the person who spiked the fucking ale was Mr. 5, who probably spit in each of the barrels.
That's
because any fluid or any bodily thing he has could become explosive. So
yeah,
the fact that you have on hand C4 is very very useful. So the boom fruit definitely is one where it's like, yeah. I don't know if there's a point with these powers where you don't have control over them and it just randomly happens. Maybe not so much because I'm going to kill a lot of people on accident. But it's also cool when Mr. 3 kind of lays out why they're there, because they're there for the bounties on Dory and Brogy, who used to be part of a giant pirate crew that used to go around. That was really cool. I liked the idea of that, and it's like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to see that crew in action and see some of the stuff they did. And also the artwork on the bottom of 16 where Mr. 3's sniffing his tea just makes him look like such a fucking creep. Because I imagine, like, instead of sniffing tea, he's just sniffing somebody's hair with the faces drawn right there.
He looks like the type that would.
It's just like, fucking gross. I can't wait for you to get killed. But I don't really have much to add to this one. I do like the fact that even though the volcano goes off, even though the Dory has literally just got knocked out again, is coughing up a lung, it's still like, no.
I gotta do this.
Yeah. Coughing up blood in the middle of it cannot disgrace the name of Elbaf. Is pretty powerful. I like... It's
a very powerful line, yeah.
I do like Dory. I would say the second feature of this volume is probably Dory and Brogy as characters in general. Because I do really like their characters. But that's really all I got for this chapter. Didn't really have much to add.
Yeah, I will say this volume had some of my shortest note pages that I've taken yet. But, yeah. So I really like the way this chapter opened, with the perspective shot and the volcano in the background. I do agree, V. I think it is the jungle in large part that causes some of the colors to the ink to kind of run together in some of the more action-oriented scenes. But I like the jungle setting overall.
Yeah.
I like jungle stuff. I like volcanoes. I think it just looks good.
I just don't know that the combination of jungle and heavy action with a lot of action lines works well together. But each of those things individually are great. I agree.
Right. Yeah. The house. That poor dinosaur got fucked up. I did write poor dinosaur with a little frowny face. So I'm on board with you, generally speaking here. He didn't deserve that. So there is a small contingent of fans, that, at least the ones that I've ran into. There's like a little joke where the wax fruit, I've heard some people call it the cum fruit because it is just white and goopy. And yeah, I mean, it's a bit. It's a legit bit I've heard before. So maybe keep that in mind. Maybe flush it from your memory. Whatever helps you.
I will keep my thoughts to myself for now.
The fact that Mr. 5 failed so miserably, and he comes back, and Mr. 3 offers him 30% take, I thought was a little high. I would have started at 3. Start low. Mr. 3, 3%. But yeah, it fits his motif, I guess, the 33. And another funny thing, when Mr. 5 walks in and he's sitting there drinking tea, Mr. 3 says, "Don't look so perturbed. Have some English tea." And like, I just want Mr. 5 to be like, "What kind of tea?"
Because English? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I'm sorry?
What's in England?
Yeah.
What's in England?
Or just proceeds to grab his whole cup and throw it into the nearest harbor.
And yeah, I like the last panel too. But just to kind of summarize, this picked up the previous volume effectively. I don't think it blew me away in any sense of the word. We're building towards Baroque works as a, entity more, as Mr. 3, he has his interactions, he's introduced in more detailed light. The giant fight was cool. I really liked the Gum Gum Rocket, again, despite all of the extra ink. I thought that was a really cool way to finish that fight. And the giants are still intriguing, and this is where I'm gonna, I'm kind of foreshadowing some of my later comments. For now, I agree with Dylan that the giants are generally intriguing, but I felt like this chapter, or this volume, they really take a back seat in a way that makes me not even really think about them much throughout this. Yeah, that's what I had for 118. Dylan, 119?
All right, again, I like the, we're training for Kobe and them. Now it's going against one of the, I guess they're supposed to be like the Navy Secret Service or something. The guys in the suits and overcoats. And Garp's just sitting there smiling ear to ear. It makes it, the more I see of Garp and his interactions with Kobe and El Dempo, makes me eager to actually see him in the manga and actually get to know more about him.
I'm with that dog.
We open up, Usopp's cheering on Brogy. I kind of like Usopp's interaction with the giants and how Brogy interacts. He's like, I'll get him this time, Usopp, don't you worry. And it's like, oh, that's kind of sweet. And again, the whole, I am Usopp, a brave warrior of the sea. It's like, all right, dude. Action's louder than words, homie. You did it once.
Yep.
That's the first thing I wrote in my notes. Okay, Usopp, do it.
I feel like we've heard that before coming from him, and
Yeah. And then this next panel underneath kind of confused me because it's just your Shunk in the Rumble and then Luffy stuck under something. Get your house off of me.
He put his house on him, but
yeah, I have a note
rock.
about that.
It's like, well, I'm looking at it. It looks like I'm guessing it's like the skull of a giant dinosaur.
Maybe, yeah.
That might be what that is.
Because I'm seeing like
There's
teeth.
A lot of holes in that skull.
Yeah, I'm seeing the teeth there. That was just like, wait, what the fuck happened? Like that was.
There are teeth there.
It was just a really random cut, and it's just like, okay, well, there's something or a mountain on top of them. But it's like, I know you're gonna try and stop me. I gotta go fight, so stay here. But I like the line that Dory gives them. Just go pick this fight. If I didn't show up, it would tarnish my name as a warrior, and to lose my good name would be to lose my very self. Powerful line.
Yeah.
These giants have nothing but, profound...
I know. They're just, they're hitting it, the nail right on the head every single time with those, epic, dramatic quotes. I love it.
And then now we kind of find out in that middle panel that Elbaf isn't necessarily just their village, it's their god. Because this is the judgment of Elbaf, the god of war. The divine protection was not with me, that's all. Luffy's just, that's bullshit. Someone snuck explosives into your ale, that has nothing to do with gods or divine protection. That's somebody's being a sneaky bitch or you're being dumb.
This has nothing to do with
it's on fate, bruh.
And Luffy's still, it's like, I get it, honor and all that, but your battle was interfered with. This fight's not fair. If you want honor, it should be a fair fight. Luffy, it's very level-headed of you. But these guys are a little more pig-headed than you are, so... I don't think it's gonna land. As Dory and Brogy are squaring off, they're like, it's like having had Daniels in years. Wasn't it refreshing? And it the one had it explode in his stomach's the nectar of the gods. It's like, bro, why not just be like, hey, no, it was a bomb. I drank a bomb.
It was a little spicy.
I'm literally
habanero.
I'm literally pissing blood now. I think we need to put a pause on this.
Yeah, can we take a day off?
Man, that ale was so good. Your mouth's bleeding a lot. That's kind of weird, but it was tasty, right? We switch back over to the baddies, and you got Mr. 3 doing the fucking monologuing bad guys do. Pretty much kind of going to
Bro's a yapper.
Going to the plan. It's like, psychological warfare. Straw Hats have no idea what's going on. It's all because of a bomb from an unseen enemy. And it's like a first target, because they want to take him alive. So he's basically like, we're gonna have him drink. It's not enough to kill them, but it's enough to make them weak enough for us to take in. I don't like him. He's a piece of shit, but his strategy's kind of sound. It's like, all right, Giant's gonna use some explosives, kind of weaken him up. And as for the Straw Hats, just it's a jungle. Get them to split off one by one.
They split off on their own.
I do this shit all the time.
He's a fucking monster.
Yeah.
I think we eventually get to the point where we find out how much of a monster he is throughout that volume. But this is certainly some of the first inklings of how terrible he actually is.
Yeah, this motherfucker an IED using son of a bitch. You can tell because it's his thing. There are countless ways to defeat an enemy without fighting. It's little bitch. Well, we cut back to Zolo, and it's just damn, I'm lost. As he's dragging around There's something up with him. He's just dragging a fucking giant Triceratops.
I love that.
By its horn.
I love that frame and the dialogue with it.
Yeah. And then this is I kind of like this aspect. Like, you don't know it's Mr. Three's powers at first, but he sees Nami. It's like, oh, hey, shit, Nami, what are you doing here, huh? I love cutting to fucking Nami and Usopp running through the woods. Oh my god, dinosaur! And just the way Usopp's drawn. Just so exaggerated. I love it. And then just like the bottom right panel on that page where it's just like he's just gaining distance on her. She's like, what the fuck, dude? Slow down. And it's like, nah, I don't have to outrun the dinosaur. I just gotta outrun you. Bye.
Yeah.
Again, another little Mr. 3 thing. It's like, oh, Luffy, thank goodness, what are you doing here? And it's weird because at first it's like you see him waving, and then it goes to the next panel, and all you see him doing is this. I was like, you've thrown a swastika in here before, dude. Like,
Yeah.
Now you got Luffy
you got
fucking
Sieg Halen, dude. We gotta calm down. Like, I know the early 2000s were a crazy time, my guy, but
the Nazi imagery is not lost on me.
Yeah.
but no, that was just a funny little bit because I know it's just waving, but it's just the angle it's shown. It's like, uh-oh. And at this point, now you're starting to understand, like, you actually get to see that this is like, no, something's up, because it has the panel of Nami just shocked, which he does very well of showing, like, shock in the characters' faces. With, like, the hollowed-out eyes. Not like they've been scooped out, but, like, you know, completely dilated pupils.
Yeah, I got you.
Usopp finds out, it's like, oh shit, I left her in the dust. And I just love how he stumbled upon Luffy and them. And, like, fucking knocked out his own teeth by just slamming into the side of a boulder. I was like, oh, what have I done? I let my shipmate die. It's like, all right, calm down, dude.
Well, I mean, he did just fucking...
He did.
Yeah, and I like how Vivi's like, wait, you said she's disappeared. Like, didn't you go back and check on it? He's like, how could I? I was too scared.
I was too much of a little bitch, baby.
Yeah.
Growth takes
If
time.
it wasn't a dinosaur, then it was a wild beast.
Well, it
what else
hasn't
could have
happened
been?
yet, and we're at chapter.
He's got like a couple. He's got like 1,000 and some
this.
hundreds to go. He's got time.
I guess he does.
And then we cut back to the Giants fighting, and I like the way the Giants fights are drawn too. When they're fighting each other, it's fun. It's fun to see. Brogy, of course, is like, what's wrong? They're off. Of course, Mr. 3 still being a piece of shit. And fucking trips up Dory. Dory's on the ground as an axe is about to fall on his head, and we end the chapter. That's what I really got. V?
With regards to the intro image, I noted exactly the same thing as you did in my notes, that, like, we're getting and I think this is as close as we've gotten to Garp so far in terms of just close up to his face. And that makes me even more intrigued to see him being part of the main story at this point. So we're definitely on the same page with regards to that. I like the details on his hood, and it also looks like we have another cigar-loving man on our hands, much like Smoker, right? He's also an enjoyer of the cigar, the nicotine. And then I was wondering for a second who were Kobe and Helmut fighting against.
I will say, he has been in other panels of the intro story.
The cape looks familiar to me. So my thoughts on Usopp for at least the beginning of this chapter is it possible to confidently be a wuss? If so,
He's got it.
Usopp is the personification of this over pages 2 and 3. It's like he's so proud to be an absolute fucking pussy. And I hate it and love it at the same time. And then, yeah, so we get the shot then at the top of page 4 with Nami dragging him behind her and telling him, I wish this bravery of yours would kicking already. And I was like, yeah, same. I'm right there with you.
He's working on it.
Let him cook.
Let him cook, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and again, like Dylan, my question with regards to like pages 4 and 5, Dory lifts a mountain and squishes Luffy under it, and I'm like, I guess that works. A lot of confusion around what actually happened. What is the thing that he is squishing Luffy again under? And, you know, ultimately I feel like Luffy does know how to get himself out of tight situations, usually with some help, but it you know, I'm gathering at that point in the story that this will not last very long, and sure enough we find out that it does not. But yeah, some confusion here around what actually is happening. Just a little, like, side tangent, and we've kind of briefly talked about this earlier in the story, but what Luffy says at the bottom of page 6, I'm guessing Luffy is an atheist. And I can't say that I'm surprised, because he's he himself is so unbothered by the grander questions in life. Like, he's so focused on the immediate that I don't think that he's really capable of feeling things that might lead one to turn towards religion. Like, I don't think he asks himself the questions that might lead someone to seek validation in religion, right? He doesn't wonder about what happens when you die. You know what I mean? And we did briefly mention, and I can't remember if it was last episode or one of the previous ones, but we were wondering about what is religion in the world of One Piece, right? And we know in this case that the giants do pray to a god, the god of war, I think is what they called Elbaf. But it seems to be kind of a scattered concept so far, and not something that Oda has gone very deeply in, which, I mean, I don't really have any firm thoughts on that. I think it's whatever. You don't need a religious basis to build your world upon. But
I like it that it's like casually tossed around. It doesn't. Right. There's no theological debates, you know, no. And I'm okay with that.
Right. And I think maybe it's a can of worms that maybe he doesn't want to open, at least not at this point in the story. But yeah, I think it just kind of speaks to Luffy's character that it's not something that he's really bothered with, nor do I see him ever being bothered with it, unless it becomes something obvious and tangible that he is confronted with and not just an idea. Maybe gods will be part of the equation at some point. I have no clue. We shall see. At the top of page 8, we get another nice shot of the two giants meeting, and I guess, like, at this point, we're gathering that Dory is pretending like he's not been injured, judging by how he reacts to Brogy's question about the ale. Like Dylan pointed out, like the nectar of the gods, you know, he's like trying to sell it as if it was the best thing he'd ever drank, where in actuality it basically destroyed his insides.
Maybe the worst thing he ever drank.
Right, exactly. Probably the worst thing he ever drank, if you think about it. At the bottom of page 9, Vivi's line of questioning, like when she says, why does he care so much about a giant he just met? He doesn't act like an outlaw with a price on his head. And my question is, why does he care so much? He's very childlike in that way. His sense of attachment and honor is based off of things that others may often find trivial, and what most would think is important, he's completely uninterested in. Like, the way that he perceives human beings, the world around him, and the people that he encounters just is not the same way that most people would think about.
You're good to him, you're a friend. You're not good to him, you're an enemy.
Right, but he doesn't see the nuance of human beings or other beings in this world, whereas I think most people with a fully developed brain will see some nuance. You know, It's not just black or white, whereas I feel like there's very little gray zone with Luffy. It's one extreme or another a lot of the time. And maybe, again, that's the truck of the Tism. But I've wondered that myself, so I was happy to see someone else question him and his actions. Like, it feels almost a little bit meta, because Luffy is such, you know, he is the main protagonist of the story, and to have other characters question his actions and his behaviors feels a little bit meta at times, because if you remove these people from the scenario, it, like, you know, the story would just go on as it does, but you wouldn't have that additional insight, and you wouldn't be necessarily drawn to ask yourself those questions about Luffy and his behavior.
I think another angle on that is that they already live in a very surreal kind of world, but they're still questioning, you know,
like,
this
even for
character.
This world, his actions don't always make a lot of sense.
Yeah, they still, you know, they still have very human emotions, and because they're, you know, they are humans, but he still inspires some kind of
Yeah, like, this is odd. Despite everything else that is odd, this is particularly odd. Yeah. Okay, I'll be honest. I basically, when I got to pages 10 and 11, I basically skipped over pages 10 and 11 to get to the bottom of page 11. Hi, Daddy.
Brother.
My notes literally have "Hi, Daddy" with a heart beside it. I mean, I did read Mr. 3's strategy and whatever, but I was distracted. Also, like, again, not to fawn over Zoro, but he's a strong...
But here we go.
He's a strong boy. Like, look at him just dragging a whole fucking Triceratops around or whatever. Like, it's nothing. Anyway.
Granted, it's exceptional. What he's doing here, I like this. He hasn't, been around a lot in this arc.
We were talking about Usopp's face, and page 15 has a lot of good Usopp face moments. I feel like I had kind of missed that focus on the way that Usopp's face is drawn. It's so distinctive, and it's so conducive to having these big, like, almost distorted expressions. I was like, I missed that. It's good to have you back, Usopp, because he did take a little bit of a backseat in Whiskey Peak, and now I'm like, okay, there he is.
I'd say he also took a bit of a backseat through all of Reverse Mountain, Laboon.
That's true, and I think Dylan...
Even parts of Lugtown, too.
Dylan last episode was like, what's his name?
Yeah, I was like, background character, the nose.
The guy with the nose.
Guy.
Oh yeah, Nose Man.
But yeah, I'm like, okay, Usopp is there, he's back. Yeah, and so and at the time, again, I wasn't exactly sure what happened for Mr. 3 to intervene, but I was getting the idea that Dory slips, and we find out more in the coming chapters, but we clearly see him lose his footing at the middle of page 19 with the swip. He's slipping on something, on the cummies. He's slipping on the cummies, which, again, yeah, we do find out later on that it is wax, but at the moment I was like, what the heck is going on? But yeah, that's all I had for 119. Mikhail?
Yeah, and I opened with, okay, Usopp, no more talking, time to do.
Time to do.
Which is a sentiment we've all shared. I also noted that Luffy is very torn up about this giant that essentially he's just met. But, I think Luffy sees honor and friendship and kindness, and it looks a lot bigger to him than it does to anyone else. He sees more good, but he also sees more bad. Just kind of highlight what V was touching on. I also really liked the short little Zoro detour we took. He wants to... I wrote this. So, let me... He wants to try Ceratops. He wants to, try it, taste it. Yeah.
But,
okay.
Tiz.
Okay.
Look at him smiling, though.
I know.
You and him have similar strength. Last episode, you said my smile. It was one of your strengths.
Who said that?
You.
I did?
Yeah, we were talking about what our strongest muscles are or something. I was like, mine's my thighs. And you said, mine's
cheekies?
my smile. Look at his smile. Look at him cheesing on page 12.
I know.
It's so endearing.
I love him so much.
And the fact that he's smiling because he's seeing Nami, of all people, he must really, really be lonely in this jungle. But yeah, I just loved him dragging a Triceratops, a whole ass Triceratops through the jungle. I wrote that Usopp's back because he was being brave for a second, or excuse me, no, let me reverse that. No, he's back, like the real Usopp's back because he's being cowardly. Pardon. Growth takes time, and again, as long as One Piece is, he will grow. It is going to take time. I hope you don't expect him to, be Luffy next week.
Right.
Right.
No, I don't. I just want a little bit more oomph. Just a little bit more oomph.
Again, foreshadowing a little bit, but I think we get some really good Usopp moments in the rest of this volume. So I think there is some growth shown here, but maybe not as much as we're looking for. So, yeah, just overall, this chapter did not do much for me, to be quite honest. It was mid. It was a little funny, a little emotional. Highlighted word there being little. Yeah. It was very much a bridge chapter. We're building the conflict, we're moving forward, and yeah, that's all I had.
I have a funny analogy because we keep talking about Usopp and his growth. He's kind of like one of those little figurines. It's like, oh, put in water and he'll grow 5 times its size. Where he has those moments where he's like, oh, so much growth, and then you give him a chapter and he dries out and he shrinks right back down. It's like, just stick with it, dude. Yeah. Well, not a chia pet. It's like the little sponge figurines that you put in. Those swell up.
They look like pills.
Okay, yeah.
But then when they dry out, they shrink back down. I used to love
those things. I was like, I can't wait for it to open, and then it's
a sponge. It's a sponge and a pill. Yay!
There's your sponge. It was the least compelling thing, but as a young child, I was all about it. But yeah, 120 will be V.
So I love the intro image of Luffy on the camel. and how he, the camel, and the snake that's curled up on top of his head all have their mouths open and sticking out their tongues in the same way. They're thirsty boys, and I love it, and I liked it. I like that we get a good variety of intro image story that makes, like, this side story progress, but also once in a while we get those more, like, standalone artistic shots.
Yeah, it's just Oda cooking.
Yeah.
I'm feeling goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's a good display of also his artistry, and, like, I didn't know that Oda could draw a camel, but now I do. Similarly to what I mentioned in chapter 118, I like that Oda drew out the final blow over a few pages. Again, it's a clever use of the pages and the layout for storytelling. That very last slash gets a whole page. And it's
a very vertical shot.
Yeah,
it's
like
down.
It's like everything is building up to that. The last slash gets a whole page, and then time again is seemingly suspended as you see, like, the blood gushing out of Dory. Luffy, Usopp, and Vivi are reacting, and I just want to point out, I love that the blood in the fourth panel in the middle of page 4 looks just like Luffy's eye. It's almost as if the blood is looking back at them. Like, that little sequence of panels, to me, like I said, very, very clever use of just how to use the layout of the manga to tell your story. And then, yeah, finally, at the end of page 5, Dory's just collapsing. It wasn't as powerful as some other moments or other deaths or other moments that you could kind of equate or estimate that this is similar to, but it was still, I think it still meant a lot. And that's what I mean when I talk about death needing to mean something. I mentioned that in the previous volume. To me, this is meaningful. This is a meaningful death. There's
a lot of weight behind it.
Yeah, and despite the circumstances, and despite what Dory himself might think, it is still a very honorable death. They gave him a good death, and that's, I think Dylan was mentioning that last episode, where if you can do anything for a character, it's to give them a good death. And that was very much the case.
Because I figured out where I heard that from. It's a YouTuber, Wendigoon, was talking with somebody who's doing a podcast with. It's like, as a writer, the best thing you can do for a character, it's not even they all lived happily ever after, because at that point it's boring, you forget about them. But a meaningful good death, it's something that they will stay in your mind forever. Like, man, they went out in such a cool way.
Shout out to Wendigoon. He's a pretty interesting YouTuber. I like a lot of his content.
Yeah, check him out if you got time to kill and you just need something to listen to.
Yeah. Dory's dying thoughts were bittersweet to me. Divine protection is not with me. That's all. Like, I don't know. I have a lot of feelings on that. I'm always a little bit sad seeing people just give into what they think is fate and basically give up agency on their own life. But at the same time, he did die at peace. He gave himself through his fate a reason to die happy. And I'm not going to get into the whole religion thing, because that's a topic that, like, I actively and throughout my life have struggled a lot with, ignorance is bliss and all of that, and fighting against, things that I'm being taught by religious institutions and things that I know to be true. And again, I'm not going to get into it, but there's a certain reassurance there where I don't know that if he hadn't been a man or a giant of fate, I don't know that he would have died happy. And in this case, I think he did, for whatever that's worth. And someone could think that it's sad, and someone can think that it's happy. I think there's a lot of credit to both of those kind of points of view, but what we can say is that he died happy, regardless of what that means in the grander scheme of things. We have 2 highly emotional close-ups in the next couple pages, with Luffy being evidently angry and shouting at the bottom of page 6, and we also get Brogy's just pure emotion at the bottom of page 8.
That Brogy panel? Yeah. That's it.
I think it's probably, like, the best or one of the best panels in this whole volume. I think what gets to me is that it's so difficult to decipher his expression. Like, it's like a mix of glee and, like, despair and sadness. It's like all of the emotions all at once. And again, it's a little bit bittersweet. He talks about how it's 73,467 battles and 1 victory. But you can tell that he's not happy about it. Like, he's not jumping around and celebrating. He's emotional, but it's just, what are those emotions? I don't know. And then a little bit later on, I don't know if it starts to happen in this chapter, but that's something that's being discussed by, I think it's Mr. 3 that talks about it later on. We'll get there when we get to it. But yeah, that Brogy panel at the bottom of page 8 is...
Oh, also the like reminiscing on the battle number. He's like 73,467.
And the way the
That
panels
means
are
that he
slowly
counted
laid out.
every single one. Yeah. Like, I feel like I would lose count, but he didn't, because it meant something for him. So, this is kind of where we get the reveal of what Mr. 3's power is. I feel like Wax, to me, it was interesting. I feel like there's a lot of potential with that talent / ability. And again, I'm not sure. Is that a gum fruit? It's not. Is it expressly told whether or not it's a gum fruit?
I think at some point he does reveal that it's like, oh, I have the wax fruit or something like that.
Someone says it.
Someone says it? Okay.
Not gum, you meant wax, right?
Well, devil fruit, yeah.
Yeah, devil fruit. Yeah.
Yeah, someone says it. I think he says it in the previous volume.
Okay. I might have just missed that. But
it was just a passing comment.
Okay, yeah. I feel like there's a lot of potential with the wax thing, and as we can see, he's using it to hold Brogy still. And at that point, I was wondering, is he the one that's made the Luffy and the Nami mannequins like wax sculptures? And we do find out that that is the case later on. I'm not sure that what we see throughout the rest of this volume fully exploits the extent of the potential that I saw with the wax. Like, I feel like they could have done a lot, and they did do a lot, but they didn't, I don't know. It wasn't done exactly the way that I wanted it to be done, or how I would have pictured it to be done to its fullest extent. I got a little angry towards page 12. Turns out that Mr. 5 is an absolute fucking monster. I was heartbroken. They held Karoo captive, and they beat him to try to get him to quack out for help? That's awful. That's so sad. That
animal abuse touches me deeply too. I had thoughts.
That was so sad. Seeing his little face and
shaking his little head in defiance.
So strong.
He's like, fuck you, no. I don't wanna.
like at the top of page 15 where 14 where he's just like shaking his head. I'm like, oh, Karoo, my poor little baby duck. I love him so much. But yeah, I was like, you know what, Mr. 5? I wish you died. Okay. Okay. So starting at the bottom of page 14 and bleeding into page 15, I don't think that Oda knows what rubbing something out implies.
Thank you, V.
But that's okay. It made me chuckle because I'm immature.
She says that she's holding her nipples.
Yeah, that was weird.
Right? Yeah, you're the ones who are gonna get rubbed out.
It's like, Oda, I see your game.
I have a note here that says, that being said, Vivi is welcome to rub me out, if you know what I mean. Anyway, I saw that. I had to do a double take. I had to reread that twice to be like, oh yeah, he's actually saying, let's rub him out. Oh, so close. I don't have a whole lot for this chapter beyond this. The chapter ending with, I'm going to create a work of art, of course, is super ominous. Like, my first thought, and I don't know if we have any other horror aficionados as listeners, but it gave me House of Wax vibes. Yeah, like, ominous. What kind of work of art are we talking about, you know? Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, House of Wax, those are all things that kind of came to mind. I'm particularly sensitive to everything that has to do with the feeling of Uncanny Valley. Like, I'm very creeped out by the Uncanny Valley phenomenon, and wax statues definitely trigger that for me. So I was like, that is terrifying, and I hate it.
You've ever been to a wax museum?
I have, yes. I went to Madame Tussauds in New York.
I did too. I was
I was
I
creeped
found it
out.
both really intriguing, but also not creeped out. But I was also kind of like, okay, this is just a
It's
tourist
uncomfortable.
It's one of those
I don't know,
things, it's
I
like the
just
inner
feel
chaos is like, where's the
uncomfy.
thermostat? Let's make
Yeah.
it 85 degrees in here.
trap. Dylan, stop being so chaotic
Yeah.
for like 10
Chaos
minutes.
calls and I
Can't help
must
it.
answer.
Look at him go. But yeah, that's all I had for 120. Dylan?
Stuff like I think the way Mr. 3 is drawn on the second page in that panel, it's just like that. Like
With
that's
the mouth?
yeah. Just seeing him like
Like the demented
no,
laugh?
just like yeah, like because
yeah.
like Happy Maskman or Happy Mask Sales Shops guy, like
Yeah.
definitely those guys, like just
Oh,
And
yeah.
Majora's Mask,
absolutely,
yeah.
like you actually the mask is slipped.
Oh, yeah.
You get to see that there's a maniacal maniac. It's like that is his personality to a T. Like that is him.
Yeah, yeah.
Creepy fucking game. Creepy fucking
I
game.
love that game.
I feel like the game's more style than substance. The whole time mechanic and everything is more of a nuisance
I think
than it is. I think it's cool. I think the game's really cool. It's eking style. And the
It
story's
serves to tell
great,
the
but
story.
It's not fun to play.
No,
I think.
it is tedious, but I feel like you can tell the same story without it.
Right.
Like
That's
it's
fine. Yeah, that makes
that's
sense.
the story.
It tells
the
a
pressure.
huge story
Yeah.
in a small space.
that's what I think.
Yeah.
That's what it
with
does.
that, you
Like
know?
Yeah.
it kind of puts that pressure on you to where you're going to make mistakes and you're going to have to learn from mistakes.
Yeah. Majora's Mask
Yeah.
is a terrifying game. I would say it's probably the darkest Zelda game.
Yeah.
The moon is terrifying.
Oh
yeah, the mask
Every time you put
transformations.
are unsettling.
And like when it fuses to Link's face, that's
And like he just looks up and
terrifying.
just screams in like fear.
I
Like,
know.
It's like
I know.
Yeah, he sure does.
yeah,
doesn't
and like,
he?
yeah, like I would
does.
say if you
Poor
haven't
little
ever
guy.
seen it in 3DS, just look up 3DS Majora's Mask like mask
Or
transformations.
play it.
Yeah.
To the listeners, play Majora's Mask.
If you liked
The
Ocarina
3DS
of
version.
Time, it's a cool story. I've never beaten
You
it,
have
but I've
to.
played it a bit. It's like this is really cool. The story is really awesome.
I've beaten it. It's a very long game because it's 4 dungeons and then a bunch of side quests to collect all of the masks. I think I've played through it entirely 100% once.
Yeah. Well,
Side
anyways.
tangent.
But yeah, and then Brogy's face, it's like you can kind of see I want to say it's like a bit of excitement, but in the eyes also like a little bit of fear because he's realizing it's like, oh, this is about to be over. I'm about to kill someone I care about.
Yeah, what does my life mean?
Yeah. Well, not so much what does my life mean. It's like I'm going to kill somebody I respect. But here we are. I'm Mr. 3. This is my assistant, and now you're my prisoner. Which the thing is it's wax. It's like, bro, wax. I don't care how much wax there is. If you're strong enough, you can break through it.
I've never been covered in that much wax before, so I don't know.
It's a giant warrior.
I've only had a little bit of wax on me.
All right. This is a family podcast.
But is it though?
No, but it's not that kind of podcast. And then Usopp's and he's like, I'm gonna find him and kill him. I can't stand all this. And then he's like, good, I'll come along with you. And it's like, good, I could use some moral support. And it shows his legs shaking again. I love all the times he has the bravado, but then you see his legs are shaking like leaves. I love that. That's hilarious. And then Luffy spots Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine and says, you're the ones who did this. And again, like V said, the Kuro, it makes you like Kuro even more. The fact that he gets captured and realizes that they're going to use him to capture.
Again, listeners, it's Karoo. He's talking about Karoo,
I'm going to keep calling him Kuro.
not Captain Kuro.
Whatever.
They need to know.
They'll figure it out. Oh, it is definitely Karoo. Yeah. Very Karoo. Yeah. Anyway, Karoo gets caught.
Yep.
And,
You got it, bud.
and it's just seeing the fact that it's like, no, I'm not going to turn to my owner.
He's such a little sweetie.
Takes the smack after getting smacked. It's
He's the best boy.
tears in his eyes, like, no, fuck you, I ain't gonna do it. And then Usopp puts the pieces together. He's like, oh, so it was you who rigged the ale to explode. And Usopp's pissed because they fucking screwed with the battle. And then again, Vivi getting ready for battle, pulling her away. I gotta say, I don't think I like that. No, I'm not a fan.
Are the sharp parts attached to
Yeah,
her
it's like
breasts?
it's so Austin Powered vibes. It's like Machine Gun Ghiblies.
Yes.
I think I would have noticed those. That's
Yeah.
like Jesus, dude. Come on. But they go after him, and then to no avail. Yeah, because Usopp takes a Nez-Palm and then gets hit with a 10,000 kilo press from Miss Valentine.
You get spanked.
Yeah, they get handled. God, it just makes Vivi kind of look like a bit of a punk ass. Which is coming in to slash at him, and then motherfucker just trips her and then catches her by the throat.
I disagree, but I'll get into it when it's...
Well, I mean, I get it, it's an explosive trip, but then again, it's like, he's got explosive powers. Maybe melee combat isn't the idea. I mean, keep your distance. So you saw him choke slam your friend into the grave. Maybe not, but, sometimes they're not too tactical. And then here we actually get to see Mr. 5 is like, yeah, it's Mr. 3, the wax fruit. Or no, Vivi is like, oh, Mr. 3, the wax fruit man. And I don't like the character of Mr. 3 at all, but I think the detail of when he's using his power, that his hair is like a candle is lit. Because when he's not using his power, it's never lit, but as he's using his power, it's lit. Which makes me think it's kind of like Charmander. It's like, put the fire out, he can't use his power. Well, except with Charmander, he fucking dies.
Poor Charmander with his little leaf that he's keeping on top of his
I won't think about it.
Tail flame anyway. Oh.
But yeah, so well, that's the end of the chapter. That's all I really got on the chapter. Again, like some interesting information revealed, but more was just the art of the first couple pages of the final blow, and then seeing the strength of Karoo was big, but then everything else is kind of, I don't know. Because I don't like the fact that she's got the fucking nipple blades. I don't know. I found that really fucking cheesy.
I feel like the highlight of this chapter was the first
like 3 pages.
4 pages. Yeah.
100% agree. So that's really all I got on this chapter.
Okay. So at first, when I was reading through the Giants fight, I was like, okay, besides the ending, this is stuff we've seen before. The Giants fights are not particularly dynamic. They're pretty one note. I mean, it's 2 warriors fighting with weapons. It's fine. But the blood squirts and the emotional release of the whole thing was made it a little bit better for me. So I read through this volume multiple times. The first time I was taking notes, I liked it a lot less than the second time. My opinion came around. First I was like, meh. And then I was like, okay. This is all right. I always enjoyed the panel with Brogy with tears or snot dripping down his face.
Probably both.
Yeah, it's a very conflicting panel. There's a lot of emotion there. So yeah. More so than the giant fight, I really liked the Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine and Usopp and Vivi and Luffy. I liked that whole interaction. You know, Luffy's helpless. He's there, but he cannot help his much weaker friends against a much stronger foe.
It's not the first time he's been in a situation like that. And most notably, I'm thinking of Arlong Park, where he was in the bottom of the ocean.
He was only like half conscious for this. He has to watch this whole thing. Man, the Karoo stuff was extraordinarily powerful for what it was. It was just a handful of... Yeah, there's a handful of panels, but I was like, you leave him alone. I wanted to throw my tablet for a minute.
Poor little baby. I know.
Karoo is a G. He is a G.
He's the best
I also
boy.
noted actually, stop calling her Miss Wednesday. Vivi grabbing at her nipples. You're the one who's going to get rubbed out. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Is that a promise?
Yeah. I really liked Vivi and Usopp standing up to, again, a much stronger, more intimidating foe. Like, it was up to them. And they failed. And I'm okay with that. I like that. It was inspiring. They're both trying. Usopp, despite all his fear and anxiety, really put everything he could into it, even though he didn't do really anything in the end. So, yeah, again, like I like this chapter despite hating it on my first go-through. Hate's a strong word. Despite disliking it, I liked seeing Usopp and Vivi stand up for themselves. It's good. And one thing I think that this volume suffers from as a whole is the antagonists. Again, I think some of the worst antagonists in the East of Blue are twice as good as this. Maybe it's better than Axe Hand Morgan, but I'm just going to go down the list. Buggy, Krieg, Arlong, Kuro, Dylan, you got me. Kuro, all more interesting.
I think it's a part of it, and I don't want to give myself credit, but there's just so many of them that I feel like there's not time to put any sort of emphasis on either and build something good, so they're kind of like, they're just throwing them out there, and I'm like...
They're out... So, I would push back on that a little bit here and say that we're at the top 5. We're at the top 5 of the hierarchy here. There's not a whole lot of separation between these guys and Mr. Zero, who we have yet to really be introduced to, or will we be introduced to him? I don't know.
I don't know.
So
but we don't.
We're right there. Yeah, right. So we're right there up against it at the top of this organization, And we do see them a good bit. You know, we got not full 3 volumes of Kuro. We got introduction to him, the meat of, let's say, Serp Village arc, and then the ending of it. I don't think it went more than that. I could be wrong. I'm not going to look it up or anything. But even during that small amount of time, we learn more about him, who he is, why, how, what, than we have in 2 volumes of these folks here. 2 almost full volumes.
Right.
Mr. 5 has been here for a minute. Mr. 3 was introduced in the last one, and now he's
right.
at the end of this.
One.
You know, he's defeated. Spoiler alert. And it's not the same amount of time, but it feels like there's not really as much effort put into these guys, and maybe that is okay. We will see. You know, as we go through this, what does the top of this organization look like?
Right.
We still have yet to meet 2, 1, 0.
Yeah.
And their companions. So we will see, but so far, unimpressed. I like the design of Mr. 5. I hate the design of Mr. 3. I think he's ugly, and not in like a fun, cool way. He's just nasty, and
I don't like his design. I can appreciate, like I said it when I spoke about this chapter, I can appreciate the potential of his power, but his design, hate it. No, thank you. Mm-hmm. Not interested.
He is very evil, but we've seen evil before.
I mean, Kuro to me was in like kind of a level playing field with regards to quote unquote evilness.
Yeah. Yes. And yeah. So 121 will be Dylan.
You got it. All right, well, I mean, Vivi's captured, the others are incapacitated, and then we see that Luffy on the bottom frame. I really like the way that's drawn. To steal y'all's favorite word, it's pretty dynamic.
Dynamic? You have to say it with the inflection, Dylan. He's not gonna...
Get real close to that mic.
They start monologuing Mr. Fry being a smart ass, like, oh, I'll pay some back for what he did at Whiskey Peak. Yes, we've captured your swordsman, friend, and the other girl as well. And Luffy's immediately like, yo, you caught Zolo, you're fucked. Like, you think you're good, but nah, you about to get cooked. At this point, he's like, all right, bring out the other prisoners, time to set up my extra special candelabra. Which, cool. We want to start talking like body horror stuff. Mr. 3 really kind of fits that a lot. Like the horror vibe. What's the horror movie? Wax Museum or something?
It's
like,
a House of Wax.
Yeah, House of Wax.
That's what I was talking about the previous chapter. It's giving off House of Wax vibes.
Very, very much. When it's like he's murdering people and then putting their corpses in the wax.
Or like putting them in wax alive.
Yeah. So the visual on that's pretty neat. Mr. 5 was like, oh, you mean the Straw Hat? I got rid of him. And Zolo's immediately like, oh, yeah? Yeah, sure you did. Okay, dude. Doesn't buy it. So Zolo's like, all right, we got a chance. To me, Zolo saying that is like, Luffy's still out there. We got a chance to fuck these guys up. We're gonna get out of this. And then he starts setting off the special attack, Mr. 3. The extra special calendra. And I guess it's like the top of it starts to spin.
Spins and then it's spreading the waxy mist.
Which again, I really do like that. I don't like Mr. 3 as a character at all, but the design of just like special attack and how it works is really, really neat. Really, really neat.
I like it too.
But then they're all coming to realizations like, I can't move. And then Vivi's like, something's raining down on us. And then he kind of lays it out. It's like, oh, it's waxy mist. It's going to turn you to fucking wax statues. It's in the name of art.
I get a lot of monologue.
Yeah, I mean, he's a psychopath. He's a psychopath talking about the people he's murdered is going to be art. Yeah, this guy's a sociopath. Like, because he was like, that's what it means to be evil. It's like, oh, what a fucking edgelord. Nami and me is like, oh shit, no, we don't want to be stupid art. Fuck that. Brogy, don't just lie there. Fight. He'll turn you into wax too. And Zolo's just like, oh, you must have eaten all your vegetables as a kid, huh?
Zolo has some corny one-liners. The human candle.
Yeah.
Like, just shush.
Like some dad jokes. I can appreciate it.
Let him talk. Let him
some daddy jokes.
Let him say whatever he wants to say.
And then Mr. 3 again monologuing. It's like, ha ha ha, you can't talk to him because I let him know that he killed his friend that was injured after 100 years. Ha ha ha. And then Brogy kind of hits him with like honor-bound warrior monologue. And the line, when he was so willing to suffer so in order to fight, how could I dishonor him by showing mercy? Powerful line. I like that line. And at this point, Brogy's full on pissed. He says, but now I know the whole story, and I shall destroy you with my own hand, and breaks one of the wax shackles. And Mr. 3's like, oh, fuck. And I love when we cut back to Luffy, I kind of love this whole interaction where everyone's completely fucked up, buried in some way, and it's like, Usopp, we're gonna let him get away with this. Usopp, no way, no way.
Yeah, that's a good panel.
And then fucking Kurl's just like pecking the ground in front of Usopp's face. Karoo is pecking the ground in front of his face, like peck, 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 peck. He's like, "Are you mad too, bird?" And he's like, "Quack!"
He's so angry.
And then just that look that Luffy gets. It's like when you see that in his eyes,
the
like,
Luffy look.
It's like, okay, let's go clobber these guys.
Yeah,
that was a good end of the chapter. That out of all the chapters we've had so far, besides all the monologuing, to me is getting a little old. It's
there's a lot.
It's stereotypical. I think that's just Mr. 3's shtick. That's how Mr. 3 is, which is why I don't like Mr. 3. But it's getting old. But
I get that.
That panel. That and interaction between them and then Brogy laying out. It's like, no, you don't get honor. And then breaking free, too, was also another really... So there were some powerful moments that kind of saved the chapter, but the monologuing for Mr. 3 is getting old. But that's all I got.
Agreed.
That's fair.
B?
So, I was happy. I got a Zoro full page at the beginning of the chapter. And he's working out, and he's sweating, and oh my goodness.
For some reason, there's a horse in a hammock?
I was going to say, I'd be more interested in the horse in the hammock reading a magazine if it wasn't for where my attention was drawn, which is Zoro doing, like, handstand push-ups, ? Anyway, whatever it is that he's doing, he can do it over me, TBH. He's gonna do a little bit of a workout, and then he's gonna, get back on his feet and go get me a margarita and serve it to me, shirtless. Please and thank you. Anyway, so I had my little Zoro fangirl moment at the beginning of this chapter, which I am always happy to indulge in. The bottom half of page 2 is drawn in a little bit of an ominous way. I'm noticing specifically Karoo and Usopp's eyes are completely whited out with their mouths open. Meanwhile, Luffy's gaze is completely black and he's like visibly exhausted. Like you can tell that, he's just slumped on the ground, and it doesn't bode too well for them, at least as the way that the chapter begins. As Dylan pointed out, Luffy at the bottom of page 3 that says, "You caught Zoro, then you're doomed." It's so good, and it's to me it speaks both to Zoro's abilities, which have been proven time and time again, but it also speaks to Luffy's faith in his crew. Like, he does not doubt them. Once his crew members are part of his crew, he puts his entire faith in them. He has no doubt in their ability. And in this case, he has no doubt in Zoro's ability, and he wears that confidence proudly. Like, he's openly proud and supportive of his crew, regardless of, last volume, they literally fought against one another. Or was it the one before? I can't remember. But they had a fight. Volume. Yeah, the last volume. Luffy just gives his whole trust to the people that he decides to let in on his crew, and that's... this little panel there kind of is a testament to all of that. And here's our captain at the top of page 4 sticking his tongue out like a petulant child, and he's obviously provoking them, and I love it. It is so typically Luffy against... Maybe it is a little bit of the lack of forethought for the consequences of his actions, but that's okay because it's gotten them this far. Trust the process, I guess? I wouldn't do it like that.
V's got to have a 10-step plan.
I need a plan.
Before she leaves her house.
I need a little bit of wiggle room, but I need an idea of where I'm headed. Otherwise, I freak out. I swear I'm not a control freak, guys. Maybe just a little bit.
Just a normal freak.
But, okay, so for example, when we went on the cruise, I was like, I should probably have a copy of Dylan's boarding pass just in case that he loses it. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think ahead.
Oh, ye of little faith. Although that was a really good idea. How dare you doubt me?
I don't doubt you. It's anyway.
Great idea, but fuck you.
I'm gonna steal it, but fuck it. Don't tell her
I just want to be careful. That's all.
Yeah, it'd be a damn shame to like fly in Canada and then be like, "Oh, Dylan can't go on the cruise now because he fucked up."
Just looking ahead, just trying to plan for the. I have an anxiety disorder, and this is one of the more productive ways in which it manifests. So you guys be thankful for it. Okay, for some reason, I really enjoyed the shot at the top of page 5 with Usopp's gaping mouth in the foreground and the explosion in the background. For some reason, that looked like it would belong in an action movie to me. Like, yeah. I don't know, just the perspective, the way that Usopp's face is kind of shadowed in with the explosion in the background was really cool to me. I don't know if people are going to get this reference. It's a fairly old work of fiction, but at the middle of page 7, when we see the image of Brogy being held down to the ground with wax, it reminds me of Gulliver's Travels.
Okay, I was thinking it. Yep.
His encounters with the Lilliputians, the little people that hold him down, basically.
Yep.
I think that's how you pronounce it.
It has permeated pop culture and life.
Right.
But,
so to me, that was a very Gulliver's Travels image.
A lot of people don't know where that kind of image kind of originates, but
look into it,
absolutely.
Guys. Who wrote that again? I can't remember.
I want to say his name was John something. I had to guess John Sullivan.
John, is that it?
Google it.
Gulliver's Travels.
Hurry!
So Jonathan Swift. Okay.
Hey,
I mean, you got John.
S, last name S?
Yeah. Anyway, so it was very, very, very Gulliver and the Lilliputians kind of imagery there. And especially when you see how small the people are beside him, it kind of drives that point. And yeah, as Dylan pointed out, next we sort of have the moment of realization where the reality of what happened actually sets in, and it's hard. It's a little heartbreaking, I guess I'm trying to put myself in his shoes, in his very large shoes, and I can't wrap my head around how much outrage and frustration I would feel at being cheated out of an honest victory, at a friend being injured and killed by my hand, but like that the whole situation was exacerbated by something that is dishonorable and out of my control. Like all of the circumstances surrounding what he thought was a real honest victory, that is like the outcome of their hundreds of years of battle, like all of that was cheated. All of that was sullied. All of it was just made dirty in a way. Like and I can only imagine how much rage festers in someone when you come to that sort of realization.
Oh, yeah.
Especially because it is the work of hundreds of years. And it's just completely pulled, they pulled the rug from under his feet. So to me, that was a very, very emotional moment.
Yeah, it took all the honor out of a 100-year-long honor duel.
Exactly.
Where honor is their religion.
It completely tarnishes everything that they have been living for the last, hundreds of years. It's terrible. And then he has to live with that now, and that's the guilt and the shame, even though you know that it's not your fault, it's still, it's very heavy. It's a heavy burden to carry, for sure. I liked the art at page 12 with the like candelabra and the jack-o'-lantern.
That was my thoughts too. It was like jack-o'-lantern.
It gave.
Why does it have to have a face though?
It gave me Tim Burton vibes a little bit. I as someone who does appreciate Tim Burton's vision for things like that, I liked it. I thought it was. I liked it. And this whole thing kind of goes from playfully spooky to downright psychotic and creepy as it starts to spin and is turning people into live wax statues. And like I noted in what I wrote down, I called the whole house of wax thing. That's exactly what's going on. And that also came to confirm that he's the one that made the statues in the woods, and that they were made of wax. as we move forward, Dylan kind of pointed it out, but at the middle of page 17, Brogy's face, when he was saying, when he was willing to suffer, so in order to fight, how could I dishonor him by showing mercy? Brogy's face is so expressive, and it kind of shows the extent of how much pain he's in, and how much this sequence of events absolutely wrecked him. To the point where, like, it makes me question, or it would maybe make him question, what is he even living for at this point? It's something truly evil to fuck with someone's beliefs and convictions as hard as Mr. 3 did with Brogy and Dory. Like, it's cruel. It's downright cruel and torturous and tyrannical. Like, it's awful.
Now, let me interrupt you there. As far as torturous, tyrannical, evil, how does it stack up with... This is kind of the second time we're having this conversation, but now that we've kind of developed him more, I feel like it's a more natural place to introduce it. Arlong, Kuro. I do feel like Krieg and Axion Morgan were a little less pure evil than the two of them. Would that be fair?
I think the two of them were just egotistical maniacs, where it's just like, I need to win because I'm the one who wins, and that's all there is to it. I'm the greatest, I win. With Arlong, it was because Kuro was definitely, no, this is my way to go legit and leave everything behind. So I've meticulously laid out this plan. Arlong is like, it was kind of sick. It's like, I'm never going to let you leave because you're going to help me forge my empire. That's my goal. Where Mr. 3, for him, is like, this shit gets me off. Like, I love watching people suffer, and that's what I want. This is my art, seeing you suffer and panic. Yeah. That's what I love.
I didn't get that, but that makes so much sense to me, actually.
That's exactly where I'm at, Dylan. If I can kind of speak to it in terms of D&D, Mr. 3 is chaotic evil.
Yeah, for sure. Just does it purely for the giggles.
Whereas Kuro and Arlong had motive and they had a certain sense of conviction, and there was a goal that they were trying to work towards in perpetrating that evil. But Mr. 3 just wants it for the sake of seeing people suffer and for the sake of his own amusement. Like, the guy is demented.
It's like, the money's a nice benefit. It's a nice plus.
It's giving Joker a little bit. To me, it's giving a little bit of Joker vibes.
So, I want to say he's chaotic, but maybe there is a code there that is a little bit more deep than I can understand. But Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, Peter Baelish.
Oh no!
Like, he's using this as an opportunity to advance himself. It's all about personal gain.
That's me from more Kuro and Arlong. Kuro especially. He is more Ramsay Bolton. He's definitely Ramsay Bolton, where it's like, I have power now, and one of my favorite things to do is starve my dogs for years and have somebody I had as a mistress try and get away from them, and I get to watch my dogs ripped into pieces. I'm going to marry this Stark girl and then ravage her and abuse her.
I can get behind that.
Or Joffrey. Joffrey vibes. Just likes to see people squirm. Likes to see people in pain. Loves to abuse his power because he can.
Fair.
I'm kind of standing by my statement of the Joker, because there's an aspect of cruel playfulness to it. Like, he's having fun.
Yeah.
He's actively enjoying himself, and he's making a little bit of a parody or a game out of it.
You guys are kind of having me come around on Mr. 3, though.
Like, he's bad. Like, he's bad.
I don't get the Joker analogy, but I've always
bad boy.
View Joker as not something he's doing it so much just because he loves it. It's more like he's like, no, there is no order to this world. There is only chaos, and I will prove that to you by putting these chaotic situations in front of you and showing up people.
Has fun with it.
He does seem to have fun with it, but it doesn't seem like his main goal is the fun he has with it. The fun is just the benefit of it. Is the way, because I'm thinking Heath Ledger's Joker, and Heath Ledger's Joker really plays that to me more. He's like, I'm going to show you the way the world really is, Batman, because I have a bum knee, Batman. I used to skip it and had an accident. Now the world must suffer.
But yeah, I guess part of what I'm also just thinking, because I'm thinking as I'm speaking and speaking as I'm thinking. It's almost as if he truly revels in it, and it's almost as if he's taking the evil that he's perpetuating lightly. because he's having so much fun with it. Like, I don't know that he grasps the gravity of what he's doing because of just his... Because he's fucked.
Listeners, chime in.
Yeah, please,
We'd love to know it.
We would love to get your thoughts on
Yeah, it's a good
this.
conversation piece, for sure.
Yeah.
That makes Mr. 3 so much more interesting, actually. And this is just sudden. Like, I did not have this post my reading, but, like, maybe is a little bit more than I was giving.
No, he's definitely Dahmer-esque. It's like, I get off of this shit, and that's why I do it.
Yeah, he gets off of the pain that he's making people go through, for sure.
It's like, the fear and panic in your last moments preserved forever in wax.
So fucking hot. I'm sure I'm about to bust.
Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust.
Yeah, so I was just... So the last thing I said was that at the middle of page 17, Brogy's face really shows the extent of how much pain that he was in. But that will not let... Luffy will not let them get away with this, and he's kind of rallying the troops, even though they're looking a little bit rough. And Luffy, at this point, is not exactly free yet. He is kind of depending on Karoo to peck him out from under the ground. And I guess we're going to see how the clobbering goes in the next few chapters.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, it could be he's trying to dig him underneath so he can fall out from underneath.
That's what I'm looking...
That makes a lot of sense.
Seems to me. Like, he's pecking at the ground trying to kind of dig him out.
I just took it. It was just he was an angry bird and it was just pecking to peck.
I mean, it could be both.
A bit of both.
Yeah. So that's what I had for 121. Mikhail?
Yeah, so I thought this chapter opened off with a great start. The white eyes on Usopp and the blackout eyes on Luffy. I loved seeing Luffy's confidence in Zoro. That was a great panel. He's like, "Oh, you captured Zoro. Joke's on you, bitch."
Yeah.
You done fucked up.
He literally says doomed. Like, you're donezo. And yeah, I really liked I called it loser art in my notes. Usopp defeated, Luffy down.
Yeah.
It was just really good art. It did feel helpless. It did feel defeated.
Yeah.
And as we know, they're going to get up. I did wonder, they're here for bounties, and I guess the 100 million for the Giants is a pretty high bounty, but why not grab the 30 million bounty guy? He's incapacitated, more or less.
It's still 30 million berries,
Also, I want to know, how are they going to transport the Giants to wherever they are going to?
On what ship?
On what ship? Calls the Navy? You're going to have to pick them up. I loved the pumpkin. I thought it was kind of corny, just the whole situation that they're in, but at the same time, I liked it. I don't know. It's one of those, like, you know how you like B movies just because they're so silly and out there. This was
watching
silly,
Sharknado.
but in a fun way. Yeah. Mr. 3, as we've had a good discussion about him, I thought, but he's about to risk it all in the name of art, which I think also speaks to that psychopathic nature, because art is not inherently lawful. Art, I think, is inherently chaotic. I don't know if that's
agree.
a fair... yeah. And he identifies as evil, and he monologues, and he's giving me James Bond villain. I did not enjoy Zoro's corny one-liners. Come on, let's not make him into a caricature. And then, yes, page 16, but also so many other times, Mr. 3 is just a yap fest.
Yeah, class A yapper.
Despite our conversations about the depth of the character and the psychology behind it, shut the fuck up.
That's very true. I agree with that. He could say less and do more.
He could say more and do more, but as long as he's saying something that's more interesting. I don't need the elaboration on your plan, man. And then, yes, Karoo is a little angel in disguise.
I love him.
I am growing more and more one with Karoo. He's putting a resume out there, if we're being honest. But, yeah, I mean, overall, this chapter developed the conflict. I thought the good parts were really good. I thought the boring parts were not good. There was a little bit too much yapping, if I may. But it at least keeps me intrigued and keeps me invested. I'm not upset with what I saw. It was more on the good side than bad. I wouldn't call it mediocre, but just a fine chapter. 122 is
So, just a real quick comment on the intro page. I want the dress that Nami is wearing. It looks good! And so does she. And I don't know, I like the dress. I like the outfit. I like the gorilla in the background. I'm all about it. I like those single character intro images. You know, I got a Zorro treat in the previous chapter, and I'm not mad to see Nami. I like her.
I mean, she's looking good.
Right? Yeah, because at the time that this was... Yeah, I like that dress with the, like, I think it's bamboo or...
Palm trees.
Yeah. I like it. So as we were just previously discussing about Mr. 3, I feel like the beginning of this chapter reiterates how much of a fucking psycho Mr. 3 is. I feel like there's something visceral and truly, like, harrowing about the sight of Brogy being held down to the ground by swords in his hands and feet. It's giving a little bit Jesus. It's giving a little bit crucifixion. But besides that, it's just... It comes across as both very painful and humiliating. Like, you are immobilized and you cannot move, otherwise you will be in, like, excruciating amounts of pain. And even Vivi says so at page 5 when she calls Mr. 3 a cruel monster. Like, this is cruel. This is really bad. Like, I guess even when I'm consuming fictional media, I always kind of have my hat of what if this were to happen in real life? And thinking about someone being held down by swords just... It like gets to me in a way that I didn't necessarily expect, and I think it's the humiliation part of it that really disturbs me. Like, he's completely at the mercy of whatever might come his way, and that's terrifying, and he can't get out of it.
Puts a wax crown of thorns on his head.
Basically. And then, yeah, this is further reiterated at the top of page 7 when Mr. 3 says, "Agony is the look I seek. Let your bodies become monuments to horror."
Oh.
Like, damn, boy, you freaky. Like, he is a fucking psycho. Like, this is a psycho line right there. Low-key kind of love it for, like, a horror novel.
I didn't even think twice about that line, but I'm with you.
I don't know. Let your bodies become monuments to horror? Ugh. Like, this is spooky. Not just spooky, this is scary.
I'm scared.
And then the bottom shot of page 8 is also quite compelling, because now not only do we get just a very powerful shot in terms of the visuals with Brogy's face, but we see Brogy questioning his faith, or at least begging his god for mercy. Just as per what I was saying in the previous chapters, you know, on one hand, we got Dory, who kind of got to die in peace, and then we get Brogy now living with the weight of what he believed being sullied or being untrue. Like, it's a very harsh reality to be faced with, and this is exactly what we see. As far as I'm concerned, that's how I interpret it at the bottom of page 8. And just all of that emotion, all of that questioning, all of that rage comes across super well in that image. Yeah. Zorro then comes in with a super morbid but also weirdly inspirational speech. You know, when he talks about how a giant without hands and feet is still more useful than a dead man. Like, I'm just gonna cut off my legs. Basically. And I can see why this is something that would resonate with Brogy. To me, it's like, although it maybe expresses itself in a different way, they both feel a distinct and real sense of honor with regards to combat. They're both proud fighters, proud warriors. Their life is to fight, and if it means literally dismembering yourself to continue to fight and to die with honor, they will do it.
It's badass.
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely
dismemberment's badass.
Like, I've heard a similar quote where it's like a wolf caught in a trap will chew off its own leg to escape.
It chew off its leg to, yeah, absolutely. That's
rather than starve and die.
Right. And that's exactly what's going on here. Okay. I got another Zoro thirst moment.
Whoa, no.
At the bottom of page 12, like the lower right corner, the close-up of Zoro's face when he says, "I'll fight to win," with a smirk on his face and that determined look in his eye, and then you see, like, right beside it, like, Brogy also feeling that same sense of, like, motivation and drive and wanting to just fight through it. I was like, yes, I love this.
I love the...
Come on.
To tack onto that thought, like, I love the onomatopoeia that's in there, too, like, the crack, 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 like you can hear the wax that's forming on them starting to crack because they're like, no, we're fighting, we're breaking out of this.
Yeah, like, the wax is solidifying, but they're trying to fight against it. Yeah, really, really like that. And then... Page 14 is an absolute treat of an image as we see Luffy, Usopp, and Karoo just burst in ready to absolutely fuck shit up. I would get a poster of that. And then, you see, like, the broad shot and then the 3 close-ups on their faces. They all have the same expression.
Whether he means it internally or not, Usopp looks ready. Like, look at
his
eyes.
He looks ready to fuck shit up.
Oh, yeah.
And he does some stuff. We'll get into it, but he does.
He does.
He works.
He does. He's, he's getting there. He's ready
to cook.
Yeah. But yeah, just the totality, the entire page 14, I thought was really good. It was a great way to kind of bring those characters back into what was happening in the, like...
It gets super chaotic, in the immediate next panel.
It does get quite chaotic, and these are the moments where I don't want to say that I lose track, but where it's harder for me to hone in and focus on what actually is the action that is going on. Just a little bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Inside joke. A little bit of an inside joke at page 16 when Luffy calls Karoo Bird as someone who gets called Bird on a regular basis. I love that. Birds assemble. Okay, Luffy pointing out how weird Mr. Three's hair is. Well, yeah, look at that weird hair. It feels almost a little bit meta, or like fourth wall breaking. Like, even he's aware of how ridiculous Mr. Three's hairdo is, even within the context of a manga, right? Like, he's like, what the fuck is that on your head? And it's like everyone kind of, when you first see it, you're like, what the fuck is that? And then you kind of get used to it because it starts to quote unquote make sense within the context of the manga. And then Luffy's there to bring you back and being like, no, this is ridiculous. Why is his hair like that? It makes no sense. Stop it.
It reminds me of children, like how like they don't have a filter. Like, so like they'll see somebody with like a dismemberment. They're like, where the fuck's your arm? What the fuck? It's like, that's my point. I don't do that.
No. Wow. Like, oh,
wow, you got a fucked up face, dude, from like a burn victim. It's like, you can't do that. Stop.
I'm thinking about Austin Powers and the mole.
Austin Powers is fresh in our mind, listeners. It is extraordinarily fresh. If you've heard a lot of Austin Powers quotes, it's because
we've watched
there have
them
been.
Recently, yeah. Anyway, pointing out something that everyone kind of agrees that maybe shouldn't be pointed out, Luffy's like, I don't give a shit. And so he goes ahead and points it out. My last comment for page 19 is, as if Zoro didn't already have a bunch of injuries with the long-lasting repercussions or side effects, he goes ahead and hacks off half of his shins. And then I just say, dude.
Dude.
I mean, I love it. I love the grit. I love the, like, grit. I don't know, maybe he's a little masochistic. He tends to just throw himself into these moments where he actively hurts himself.
He has a thought, and then he acts
and he actually acts on it. Like, I admire it. I'm a little turned on by it, and also a little concerned, but, like, bro.
You could fix him.
I could. I really could. Please, give me a chance. But yeah, that's what I had for 122. You done?
Dilly.
No. I love after how seeing everything, like, Mr. 3 is like, oh, I underestimated them. Giants are incredibly strong. Yeah, no shit. The Giants? You fucking dum-dum?
Oh, you think all that mass is not muscle?
Yeah, it's just hidden under jolliness. So that's my excuse. But then I kind of like the Wax Art's sword and his use of him, kind of like a little gruesome, but pinning his hands and feet. Pretty metal, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And then, like, the thing is, like, they're sitting there, like, he's speeding up the thing, and speeding up his Calendra, and like everyone's kind of like coughing. Nami's like, coughing, oh, my chest hurts. Vivi's like, the wax is getting in our lungs. We need to turn this into wax figures from inside out. And I love Gisele's just like, kind of, it's like, there's nothing I can do right now. There's no reason. Like, if you panic, your heart rate, your breathing increases. Stay calm, cool, and collected. Buy yourself more time. But it's also the thing, it's like, yeah, stop breathing through your mouth. Breathe through your nose, and then it'll slow down.
Does he say
No,
this?
he doesn't. This is just me. This is an observation.
Oh.
And just breathe through your nose. Like, and breathe through your mouth, so you're ingesting that much more. Like, limit points of contact.
Me sitting there fucking... I'm a mouth breather. Put it out there. I would be dead.
Or, do one of
breathe at all.
Do one of these. And you can't see me, but it's like, cup your hand over your nose and mouth to keep the mist from getting in your nose and mouth. So your goal is to buy time. And like you said, V, this is kind of like on our conversation of him just being a sociopath getting off on this shit, Mr. 3 that is.
Yeah.
His line of agony. Agony is the look I seek, let your bodies become monuments to horror. It's very like, and again, his facial expression, like I said in the other one, where that facial expression he had, that is him. That like happy mask salesman, like when he freaks out and he's like fucking holding you by the neck. It's like, where's my fucking give me the fucking mask. And it's like, that's him. That is like,
like that shot in Majora's Mask is the most one of the most terrifying things I've seen in a like non-horror video
even
game.
Even Ocarina of Time, when you come
scary.
to like, it's like, I sold the mask. It's like, well, where's the money? I don't have it. It's just the change in expression from this like plastic, like painted on happy smile to this just look of unbridled rage. And it's just like, holy shit.
It's giving the moment in Lord of the Rings where Bilbo wants the ring and he wants to grab it and his face just turns. That's the moment.
All I gotta say is like, I'm glad first time I saw that my balls weren't itchy because I would have ripped my nutsack off. That shit made me jump so hard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, shit still gets me a little bit nowadays. I know it's coming. It's like, it's coming.
Same.
Goddamn.
Oh yeah. I hate it.
And I love fucking Nami's line after that. It's like, forget your art, you twisted top-knotted fiend. How dare you do that to Brogy?
I did thought that was a little Shakespearean for Nami.
That's funny.
Top-knotted
Well, she's just like calling him out. It's like, outdated hairstyle, loser, fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
And then you got I do really like the Brogy kind of like bargaining with his god. Like, no, this isn't your way. You wouldn't deny your warriors an honorable death. This is cruel. No, you can't. And then him picking up, like Mr. 3 picking up, and it's like, that's what I'm after. That tortured bitterness. That's I could eat it up. So yeah, certified creep. I can't wait to see him die. And then Nami's starting to panic. Zolo again, calm, cool, collected. Vivi seems kind of like not full blown panic, a little calmer, but she's kind of been like, oh shit, her body's starting to harden up.
I'm really liking what I've seen from Vivi in this.
Yeah, she's except for the nipple weapons. That was weird.
Yeah,
I kind of like that too.
I mean, fair enough.
Michael.
And then Zolo.
If you guys could see his face right now.
And then Zolo, being the cold motherfucker he is, just Zolo's like, I can move too if I cut off my legs. And that telltale smirk on his face. And Nami's like, you fucking idiot, what are you doing that? I was like, is there a better time to say it? Like, what are you guys gonna do?
But I kind of get it. Like, either you chop your legs off or you die.
It's like,
if
I do nothing, I'm gonna die. I might as well try.
I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
I might as well try something.
Yeah,
That's
which
exactly
is what he gets.
Yeah.
It's like, Vivi's like, do it. It's hopeless. If you get down from here, they'll just trap you again. And he's like, you never know until you try, right? We're dead if we stay here, that's for sure. I say we go out.
King shit. It's more king shit.
I say we go out putting up the ugliest fight we can.
That was a killer line.
I love him with all my heart.
Three Swords kind of dumb, but it's a hard motherfucker. Like, I get it. The Three Swords still a little goofy, but...
I mean, take the Three Sword style out, you would like him.
That's just all my stress dreams involve dental trauma, and the fact that he's holding a sword in his mouth is just something I'm just like, no.
Don't do that.
All it takes is one really good hit, and then motherfuckers are going, correct?
Yeah.
And I love this, like, the fucking bad guys die. And also the line, why lie down and die for these creeps, right? And then Brogy's like, he starts bugging. He's like, oh, fuck, he's right. And they had the bad guys, like, monologuing with each other. He's like, what's he say? Is he crazy? And fucking Mr. 3 being like, oh, he's bluffing. You never do it. He's all talk.
He gets halfway fucking through it.
Brogy's like, starts laughing his ass off. It's like, you're cocky. I like the cut of your jib. Which is not...
He's not cocky. He's confident. according to V.
That's fucking same.
I stand by
Kind
that.
of the same thing. Cocky's a little more extreme. But yeah, and it's like, essentially says, he doesn't say word for word, but he's like, I like the cut of your jib, let's do it. And then I love Nami's like, you're not serious, are you? Without your legs, how will you fight? And the fucking cold ass line is like, I don't know, but I'm gonna fight to win. It's like, fuck yeah, dude. Alright, let's go. And then Mr. 3, you get to see how much of a little bitch Mr. 3 is, because he's gulp. And you can tell he's shook. They're all fucking shook. Except for Paint Bitch. Paint Bitch doesn't seem to be, what is it, Mrs. Golden Week?
Yeah, there's a little line that kind of touches on that later.
I think she expands on it. They expand on it later in
But
the
she,
volume.
like, with one little line, they're like, you don't react to nothing, do you?
Yeah, like, she's just like, the bad guys are like, oh shit, like, what the fuck? They're freaked out. She doesn't seem to be. And then Vivi has the flashback to Igarappa. It's like, Princess Vivi, it's up to you to save the kingdom. She's like, hold on. You know what? Fuck it. I'm with you too. Let's do it.
Yes, and that was a killer Vivi moment. Again.
Yeah, that was pretty. He's like, you know what? Your nipple weapons are weird, but, you know, you're willing to fight. I can respect that.
Yeah.
And Mr. 3's like, oh, that's ridiculous. I'll kill you all. And it's like, all right, well, Zola's like, I'm just going to start at the kneecaps. We'll work out from there. And then, again, like you said, the fucking awesome scene of the three buffoons blasting through the woods.
Yeah.
The goofiest.
The goof troop here to save the day.
I'm going to save your
I'll
life.
do it again. Guilty. And I just love the fact that they go flying past, like, everyone. They're, like, way overshot their entrance. And as they're flying past them, they're like, oh, you jerks, get ready to die. Goes slamming into the jungle 20 yards away. And bad guy's like, what the fuck is... What? And the line, Usopp Bird, get him. All right, quack! And again, like I've mentioned it before, Usopp's little, like, bring down binocular, monocle, sniper goggle things.
His goggles, yeah.
I do like that. There's some, like I've said before, like, there's some aspects of the steam, like, that's very steampunky, and there's some aspects of steampunk.
It's his way of showing that he's
in it to fight.
More in the tank. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, like, for him, that's his Zolo bandana.
Yes. Yeah. That's a great way to put
Right,
it.
yeah.
Or
like,
Luffy giving someone his hat.
Yeah. When he puts it on, he's not fucking around anymore.
Like, it man rolling up the sleeves. Yeah.
For some reason, it looks like Usopp's
is being said by Zolo,
yelling Usopp.
But he's not. He's not saying anything. So I think it's Nami saying it too. But the fact that she says Luffy first, and like the amount of like relief and like the tears of like holy shit, I'm not gonna die on her face, like kind of speaks volumes about how she actually starts to view her crew.
It would be weird if Zoro's like, fuck yeah, Usopp's.
Dude, I love that dude. You see that hot sauce he splashed in his eyes? And she was crazy. This guy's goofy as fuck.
Man, I love a good fucking goof.
Yeah.
And then,
we should start giving Zolo a fucking Brooklyn accent.
hey, yo, fucking stupid Mr. Hair Guy, I'm gonna cut you to fucking ribbons. I'm gonna feed you to the fishes.
I disagree.
I'm about it, so too late.
I get it.
Usopp, I love Usopp, Master Brogy will avenge you. And I love how fucking Brogy's like, Usopp, yeah, hell yeah. And Mr. 3 coming in with the fucking monologue. He's like, oh, so your head carries the biggest bounty in the East Blue, eh? The Navy has certainly lowered its standards. And then fucking Luffy calls him out. It's like, your hair's weird, fucking loser. And essentially, like, they're basically like, you look like the kind of motherfucker I would shove in a locker. Shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine getting bullied by the autistic kid at school.
You're kidding me? That'd be terrifying. It's like, you know what? I'll get in the locker. You don't have to push me in there. Yes, sir. You got it.
Right?
I'll put myself
You can't handle the shame.
Hey, I'm sorry. As long as you keep calm, I'm good with it. Like, we're cool, dude. Like, I'm going to get in the locker. I got some lunch money here for you. You know, take it easy. If you need help, all right.
Shows up next day in a duster.
Hey, man, you're cool. Don't come to school today. We shouldn't joke that. We shouldn't joke. We live in America. We shouldn't joke.
I might cut that.
It's an Always Sunny's bit. Anyways. How do I look, Mr. Yellow Man?
It
looks like you're about to tell your friend not to show up to school tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, God. And then Nami is immediately trying to shake him out. It's like, all right, yeah, his hair's weird. Never mind that. Break this fucking pillar. It's going to kill us. He's like, oh, you're in danger? It's like, I was all be like, no, we're good. No problem here. I got it.
Don't worry about it, Lou.
And then Nami's like, wait, your legs are bleeding. It's like, yeah, I guess I hacked about halfway through them. And Vivi just be like, what the fuck did I get into? You say that's not a problem? And so it's like, anyway, Luffy, could you break the pillar? We'll let you finish up here. Sure. Mystery, I can't let you do that.
That last panel gave me Star Fox vibes.
I can't let you do that, Star Fox. Yeah. Wolf.
Andros sent us to take you down.
What kind of voice does he speak with, do you think?
I think
Who? Mr.
I think
Mr.
it's the
Three.
nasally, like fucking.
You can understand my
Yeah.
master plan.
I have seen him voice act in the anime, but I cannot remember, so I'm going to go with that.
It's got to be that. It's the only thing that fits. But that's all I got. Michael?
All right. So, I also thought the swords through the hands was a cool
It's brutal.
and interesting use of the power, of the wax power. I also got Gulliver's vibes, V.
Right.
So I'm right there with you. And at this point, the giants feel to me more of a prop almost interact with. I don't know how to explain exactly what I'm thinking, but they're not at the forefront of my mind as they were at the beginning of, or at the end of last volume, the beginning of Little Garden. I feel that they've taken a back seat, which makes sense, but I still feel like they were such a cool part of what had drawn me into Little Garden from the beginning that it does feel like a little disappointment to see them down and out. I know that this is a story about the Straw Hats and their conquest, but it's not the first time they've had help from others. And I don't think it would be such an awful thing to have them really be a part of this in a more meaningful and more involved way.
That's fair.
They just feel like a part of the setting, I guess, would be a better way to put it. I think the art of people who are made of flesh turning to wax is good, how it has little lines, and somehow I can kind of like feel like I decipher
You can kind of you can see it like progress, right? Like you can see how it's taking more and more space on their bodies.
Right, and we get more of that, and I like that. Zoro in this chapter is doing more fucking king shit. Like, I forgot how much Zoro does during the beginning of this arc, and maybe more to come. It's been a long time. I will let you guys know, and our listeners, it's been a long time since I've read this, watched it, anything. But yeah, I'm here for it. Zoro is reminding me why he's so great. He says, we're going to give them the ugliest fight they can, and that stuck with me. Yeah. Like, yeah, go to war. Kick them in the nuts. Throw
fight
sand
dirty.
in their eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah.
And then him going through his legs is such a Zoro thing.
I know.
Like, I feel like almost no
one
thought
else
went into
No one
it.
else.
Yeah. He didn't think about this first. He wasn't like, maybe I'll need my legs later. He's like, no, I don't need them now.
Right.
They are a problem. And I thought it was both funny and awesome. It was such an interesting way to like bring those two concepts together. Just like badass and goofy at the same time.
Yeah.
But I feel like it just ended up more badass. Again, I've read this volume twice, and this chapter. And the first read through, I wanted to dislike it. Mm-hmm. But I just think it brings a lot of fun and excitement, despite some glaring flaws. Again, I just think this whole volume as a whole is flawed in its core. It just has some really weird moments. I feel like some of the timer stuff on it, like the candelabra, my first read through, I was like, okay, the candelabra is just false tension. But Mr. 3 being a sicko who wants to create art, I guess that makes sense in retrospect. You know, he's making these perfect wax figures. He doesn't want them to be just a wax blob.
Right.
He has a vision in mind, which kind of adds to him as a character. I still don't love just the fundamental conflict. Again, the giants being down, the candelabra doing its thing. While I've come around to some of it, I still don't like the giants being out of the fight. They feel like such a secondary thought, where they felt like a core moment or a core piece of the central idea that I had coming into it.
Yeah, I feel like maybe like individually those two concepts, like the whole thing with the giants and then the whole thing with Mr. 3 and the candelabra and the wax and whatever, maybe they just didn't belong together. That individually they work well and they're interesting, but the combination of both feels a little, I don't want to say forced, but
awkward?
Slightly out of place, yeah. Slightly awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides Mr. 3, which the two of you brought me around on Mr. 3, whether you intended it or not. You guys brought me back on
That's what we do.
Mr. 3.
Those fresh eyes.
I'm going to read my thoughts without that being in there. I was like, I've lost interest in the giants and the villains. That being said, let's go Straw Hats. Like, I felt like the protagonist had such a great opportunity, and they seized it. And the opposition, as well as the conflict, meaning the giants, fell flat. But again, I'm back on board with Mr. 3. I feel like y'all's takes really put that into perspective for me. But yeah, Dylan is 23.
We'll say cover art, more of the goofy cover art. Kind of like it. Fucking Luffy and a giant giraffe in a kayak. The Usopp 4. And
sounds like you just picked 3 random words, and you're just like, yeah, that's what we're doing. That's how
he draws. He's like, Usopp, giraffe, kayak, got it.
Yeah, it's like he pulled like
he's got a hat full of just like
from a hat.
Pieces of paper from a hat, and that's just what he's gonna go with.
One piece character, random animal, vehicle. All right.
The giraffe is smoking.
Yeah, well, I love the expression on the giraffe because Usopp's trying to be like, I'm in charge of this vessel. It's called Usopp 4. Like, we need to go this way, and it just seems like the giraffe's just over his shit.
Shut the fuck up.
This fucking guy, dude. I cannot wait. I should have never paid for this tour. This is a fucking terrible idea. This guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Also, love the name of the chapter, Luffy versus Mr. 3. Straight to the point. Once we know what I'm about to get into, and I'm for it. And then Luffy's just like, I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna wreck it. Crack, crack, crack. Which, he's made of rubber. I don't know how he can crack his knuckles. But, whatever. I'm thinking too hard. I'm thinking too hard about it.
He's twitchy.
And then I gotta say, I love Usopp using Karu as the battle mount. Like, to me, like, I see that, and I was like, that's you. That's what you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be fucking mounted fucking archery or whatever.
Mounted sniper, yeah.
Because what was it? There's like actual like mounted cavalry, like pistoliers, which was like, it was literally just cavalry with flintlock pistols that get up to the pikeman line, unload with pistols, and then fucking dip off.
So this is pushing us a little off topic, but ancient times, like mounted archer cavalry.
The Mongol Empire was so fucking gnarly.
Yeah, I can't imagine riding on a horseback or whatever and trying to aim a ranged weapon. I could never. I can't do it standing still.
The reason it worked is because they were trained to do that as, like, they were nomadic. They were trained to do that as children. Like, that was a lifetime of learning how to do that.
I can't.
Well, you just even like, you think that's tough. Imagine, like, because I think the Japanese had that as well, and like the Japanese longbows are like fucking ridiculous. They're huge, and the draw strength of those is ridiculous. And the fact that they could pull those off at gallop and still be accurate as shit.
Good for ancient man. And
women, it's kind of like, hey man, I got shit to do. What are you gonna do? I don't know. I'm gonna spend like 12 hours a day on a horseback with a bow and just figure it out. So that actually sounds kind of fun. I was just gonna like dig turnips or some shit, but that sounds way cooler.
To each their own.
And I love, like, they're sitting there, like, they're like, yeah, we're gonna fuck them up. And then, like, on the Condor, bro, they're like, hurry up, we're getting stiff. And I was kind of like, Ayo.
Only you.
No, come on. I've been the most tame this whole episode. I don't want to hear it.
He has been a good boy.
You little pets.
And I love the top right panel on page 3. And I was just, like, looking at fucking Zilla. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, hey, if I'm gonna be a statue, I want this pose. It's like, all right, yeah, I get you, dude. That's badass.
That struck me as weird. That feels like Zoro giving in to his fate after he's already gone through half his leg.
No, that to me is just like, Luffy has this. I'm just going to be a goofball.
Yeah, okay, fair.
And I think Vivi even realizes that's what he's doing. And it's like, idiot, this is no time to be playing. Mm-hmm. Nami's like, that's showing that she actually cares about her crewmates to a point. It's like, forget that, do something to stop your leg from bleeding. Just looking at it hurts me. And Zolo immediately, then don't look at it. How's that my problem? That's your issue. Deal with it yourself. And then the interaction of what kind of fool cuts off his leg so he can run away? You got it wrong. I was going to cut off my leg so I could fight. That's even stupider. Yeah. You know what? Shut up, okay? I feel like we've had conversations like that on several occasions. It's like, why are you doing that? That's stupid. This is why. That's even dumber. You should shut the fuck up. You don't know me.
Yes.
And I love, like, fucking Mrs. Golden Week sitting there just like fucking snacking, having a little picnic. And it's like, damn, nothing seems to rattle those people, Mr. 3.
She is so unbothered.
And
she's
that's
having her little crispy
that's the
rice
line
snack.
You guys were talking about. Like, the same is true of you, Miss Golden Week. It's like,
Yes. Yep. That's it.
Yep.
Luffy's kind of like, we're still being turned into wax figures. It's almost as if they have no sense that they're in danger. It's like they do, but they have utmost confidence in their crewmates. And I think she's starting to finally process that realization.
That they're a little different.
And then Mr. 3 is like,
These people don't seem to respect our power. That's most annoying. Yeah,
Luffy just motherfucker being like, that motherfucker don't look like any threat at all. Like, alright, locker time, nerd. And Usopp kind of hits him with a hard-ass line, top right of page 5. You scumbags talk too much. You went too far, now rest in pieces. Quack! And I love immediately after that, it's like they're cowering behind trees. And it's like, okay, we'll back you up, Luffy. It's like, wait, you guys say something? And then even fucking Brogy is kind of like getting the dynamic here. When he's talking with Zolo, and it's like, seems like we don't get to fight after all, eh, lad? And Zolo's like, yeah, looks like they're going to be taking it from here. It's like, I like that. The fact that Brogy can look at it like, no, they're going to handle it. And I love the fact that Luffy gets hit with the candle lock and looks at it. It's like, what the fuck is this? My legs are stuck like they're in a hammer. And then immediately it's like, ooh. And the way his face is drawn with that realization, where it's just like, ooh.
Oh,
this
hold on.
is great. And I love it. It's like, hey, sorry, Mr. Giant, as he grabs onto the sword that's in his hand and starts spinning around it.
The panel?
And you can just see the pain that, yeah, when it's doing it, you can see Brogy in the background. Like,
The blood is squirting out of the
Yeah.
bottom.
Like, dude.
Yeah. Well, you can even see the motion of like it being wiggled back and forth.
Yeah. It's...
God.
Vomit noises.
And then hits the gum hammer and just fucking takes out the middle layer of the fucking
Only
candelabra.
that was enough.
It's like, man, you dumb, but like, you smart too. The fact that he got that, it's like, oh, that's
It's a
a
start.
large, heavy surface that I can use. He gets momentum. Motherfucker understands momentum in physics. Like, he gets that much. Mr. 3, like, I like the art of I don't like him as a character, but I like the art of his attacks. Like the wax art just call it the wax harpoon. Stop throwing art.
You're not
Unnecessary. Yeah.
It's like, I'm an artist. If you have to say it, are
Not
you
really,
really?
no.
But then Usopp hitting him with gunpowder start, and like, I see that, and it's just like, actually, like, it's a wax guy. I feel like a lot of Usopp's attacks would be extremely effective against him. Because it's a lot of explosions, it's a lot of flames, a lot of shit that can melt wax. So he shoots the gunpowder star, and then Mr. 5 comes in and just eats it. It's dexterous as shit. This motherfucker made max dex. For sure.
I feel like he's kind of a warlock with high dex. That's just what I get. Anyway.
Yeah, whereas like the Nespalm Cannon is,
Yeah,
fucking
exactly.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Damn. Oh, dude, we need to develop a fucking D20 based fucking One
I'd
Piece
love
game.
to.
Dude. Kind of.
It'd be so weird, and plus the legality of it would be a fucking nightmare.
Yes.
One can dream.
Every single devil fruit that we have to account for, I'm not doing it.
Well, that could be how you pick your classes. The class system is based on devil fruit powers. It's like, oh, you pick the gum. That's the monk.
There are a lot of them, though. I think is the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we've already seen, like, 10.
Well, then you can go into subclasses with that. It's like, okay, this is what you want to do. This is your subclass. That's your fruit.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, but an interesting idea. So he eats it, swallows it. Doesn't bother him because, again, he can make all of his shit explosive. So why would explosives fuck with him? It's Looney Tunes as fuck. It's very, very Looney Tunes. And I love Mr. 5 was like, the flavor could be better. You don't use gunpowder, good gunpowder, do you?
There's some flavor coming your way, brother.
And then fucking Karoo just being like, whoa. Fucking love the duck, dude. I hope he
Karoo.
stays forever.
If he dies, I'm gonna puke.
What if he fake out dies?
And then Nami again.
I'm
probably gonna vomit and shit out of anger. Send a picture of it to Oda. It's like, you see what you've done?
This is what you've done to me,
just threw this
Oda!
underwear. I had to throw those pants out, you son of a bitch. Those are my favorite pants. And then Nami again starting to panic. It's like, this isn't good. It's really coming down fast. Zola's like, good thing I chose this pose.
Love him.
Yeah. He's fucking cold-hearted motherfucker. Although the thing is, like, with his, like, I had thoughts, like, with his blades, why cut off your legs? Your blades are so, we watched you dig an 8-foot hole with the tip of your sword. Why not just cut the wax out around you and just fall away from it?
I think that 8-foot hole was nonsense it was Looney Tunes shit.
It was bullshit, but the fact is, we had him slice a fucking boulder in half.
Yeah.
His swords are sharp enough to where he could probably easily get
but
through
these
this
are-
wax.
Unless the wax is like magical for some reason.
If I may,
I mean, it is,
And
but still, I think
keeps
his
building,
blades...
right? Because it hasn't stopped
that's
spinning,
also true.
so it keeps adding layers upon layers.
Mr. 3 has said their heart is steel.
Yeah. It's not normal wax.
Mr. 3 throws up a candle wall. Oh, fucking Luffy just like, hey, you stop getting in my way. Mr. 3 like, oh, same to you. Step your finger with my waxwork.
I love that voice, Dylan.
That's how I picture him.
No, that's it. That's exactly how he comes across in my mind also. Just
yeah. It's a kid. Not again. And then Luffy's just like, oh, I know. And he's like, haha, gotcha. I was like, hey, thanks for the hammer, dipshit. You can see it breaks through the wall. And he fucking decks the shit out of Mr. Oh, love that. Like, seeing him go flying, seeing the fucking
a good image.
lower right panel of him just like getting clocked and flying through the air.
He fucking deserves it.
Suck my dioc.
Suck my dick.
Mr. 3, impossible. Usopp in the background.
Whoa.
And then fucking Nami, yeah, Luffy, now hurry up and break us out of this stuff. Luffy just, no. It's like, wait, quit fucking around. Just help us out. No. You're having a laugh.
It's a good bit, Luffy.
Around, Luffy.
I admit, it's a good bit. Hilarious.
Yeah, it's funny, but
you're being a funny boy. Yeah, stop it now. Okay.
Stop playing.
you can be done now.
And Luffy's just like,
okay, ha.
And then Luffy, the artwork at the panel where he's like, what'll I do? I don't want to save you guys. And then the shock in Nami's face was, what are you talking about?
What the heck?
Miss Golden Week, Colors Trap.
What the heck?
Way that's drawn. Very well done. Colors Trap.
It's the smallest panel, but it is. I like
the Nami one.
It's one of those
Mrs. Golden Week.
Where
Golden Week?
She says Colors Trap.
She's eating her
and the dark shading.
onigiri.
Yeah, and the fact that that's where the chapter cuts. I like that. The one thing where Luffy's like, his whole thing is like, I want to help my friends. I always want to help my friends. That's me. And he's immediately like, I don't want to save you. And this bitch like color trap and it cold cuts. Good way to end the chapter. Good way to bring people in for the next volume or chapter. But that's all I got. B.
Dylan brought a lot of good points forward. I will not rehash them. I did want to point out the interaction at the middle of page 3. Like that whole just middle part of that page gave me a pretty good laugh. Like the interaction between Zoro and Nami is funny and it comes across as authentic. Like, what kind of fool cuts off his legs? So, that thing. And then just the ensuing conversation between Miss Golden Week and Mr. 3 is it's good comedic timing. Like, I could see that in a show. Yeah. Like, I know it is made to be an anime, but it just the pacing of the comedy and the way that the conversations flow from one to the other, I think was nicely written. I mentioned that last volume, I'd been fearing that the quantity of antagonists would get to me eventually, and I feel it's starting here around page 4 as like the two duos of Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine and Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Wheat kind of join up and are in the same space at the same time. To me, it feels like it's a lot to take in and to keep track of, just in terms of the sheer amount of characters being active at the same time. It's like, I'd rather be focusing on one set of bad guys at a time.
If I may.
Yes, you may.
I feel like that's almost my catchphrase.
That's your absolutely.
So,
yes, you may.
I think there's a difference between a melee where everyone's there. Everyone's doing something different, all within a 100-yard radius.
Brawl.
There will be times where there are multiple lackeys, but everyone kind of has picked their target, and they each get their moment to shine.
Right.
It's A versus A1.
Right.
B versus B1. It kind of splits it up, which is a very manga thing to do.
Right.
But I feel like this is unique in the sense that it is that kind of jumbled up mess, and I get
it. Yeah, it's like you said, there's not a whole lot of structure to it. It's like now that they're all in the same space together, I'm losing track of, and maybe that's just my ADD, but like, I don't know. And I feel like to a certain extent it kind of diminishes the value of each set of antagonists. Like, because I can't focus on just one at a time, as so far I've been led to do.
Yes.
It feels clunky. Again, there are a
Usopp
few
versus
moments.
Shu got its own chapter. It was the whole thing was one boom.
Right. 1v1. Right? But this is just kind of, it's a little bit of a mess. And we just pointed it out, I think the last chapter or the one before, where it gets a little clunky. Like, there are moments where the pacing is maybe a little bit too ambitious. trying to bring all of these antagonists together and make it make sense, because currently it doesn't, right? I don't know that is something that we will see further as the story progresses, but for now I'm feeling a little bit like, I would rather we just pay our attention to one set of villains at a time than bringing them all together. And as I had expressed in previous volumes, that was a fear of mine when we were initially introduced to Baroque works, and I'm kind of seeing the effects of it as it's happening and unfolding, and as we're seeing them take more action. Seeing the Gum Gum Hammer in action over the next 2 pages was fun. Some would even say that it's dynamic. Yeah, I liked it. Again, like Dylan pointed out, that shot at the top of page 8 where you see him spinning around the sword and the sword is like moving in Brogy's hand.
That was actually a very dynamic panel in the truest sense of the word.
Right. Like there's a lot going on at the same time. You can clearly see the movement that's happening. I think that's one thing. Yeah, the blood, just Brogy's face, like right in the little corner where he's like wailing in pain. And then just following right after that, Zoro's face, Mr. Three's face. That's Vivi.
Yeah.
Just, it's all very like active, dynamic, a lot of things happening at the same time. As Dylan pointed out, I fucking lost it at the bottom of page 11 when Vivi asks Zoro, are we really entrusting our lives to this boob? Mr. Bushido.
Yeah.
I think just the fact that I think it might have been the first time that we see the word boob written in this manga.
We've seen boobs, but we haven't seen it derogatory.
We've seen boobs, but we've not seen it written down. And just, to me, to call someone a boob is the funniest thing. Like, I'm gonna start calling you guys boobs.
I have been a boob a time or two.
A time or two?
3 times. I can think of.
But yes, that was very funny to me. Listen, Luffy does not strategize all the time, but when he does, I feel like it pays off, and that's what we kind of see here at pages 16 and 17 as he's using his Gum Gum Hammer. Yeah. And I don't know to what extent he actually strategizes, or if he just kind of does things and waits for the result.
He knows a little bit.
Throws it at the wall, see what sticks.
He knows a little bit of what's going on. He knows his feet are really hard, and they can be used as a weapon.
Right.
Well, like Gum Gum Balloon to bounce them into the fucking
right. Like there's
entrance.
Some amount of thought there, but maybe not to the extent that most people would use it, but somehow he still gets to a similar place. Like the result ends up being a pretty positive one, maybe, most of the time. I don't know. But yeah, so his use of the Gum Gum Hammer over pages 16 and 17, I quite like.
I just love the fact that he heard that the lock was coming. I was like, ooh, I can use that.
Yeah, he was like, exactly, thank you. That he literally thanks him at the bottom of page 16, says, thanks for the hammer. And yeah, so at page 19, Luffy is sounding awfully sus, as if he's being possessed or manipulated by someone else, and considering what Miss Golden Week says, I do wonder, at that point in time, I did wonder if she was not the one behind it, and we find out later on in this volume that she is. But as Dylan pointed out, that last shot of her, I feel like it's kind of the first time that we see any sort of like emotion or drive coming from the
really
character.
Anything, to be honest. Yeah,
she's been kind of, and Mr. 3 I think points it out at the beginning of that chapter when he says the same is true of you, Miss Golden Week. But this is a moment where she does display some sort of, I don't know that I would call it emotion.
Emotion, is a strong word, but it's something.
Something happens. Like, she's not just a stone wall anymore. Like, there's something going on as she states Color's trap. And that's all I had for 123. Mikhail?
So, I really had appreciation for the very first panel of this chapter at the top of page 2. Luffy sitting there ready to fight, but especially the background. Usopp holding his slingshot to the sky. Even Karoo looks ready to go.
That is a good shot.
Yeah, I like that. I think that the candelabra is a good set piece. I think it really kind of ties everything together. I think it really provides a good, like, gravity for the whole action. It's there, it's big, it's imposing, it's kind of silly, it's kind of fun. I like it.
Well, and currently at that moment, it is the source of danger.
Yes.
Right? Regardless
It's
of
the
what
tension.
is going on with... Yeah, regardless of what's going on with Mr. 3 himself, with Mr. 5, whatever, like, their demise is because of the candelabra.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mr. 3's like, these people don't seem to respect our power. No one respects you. That's why
No.
you're a villain, probably.
You're ridiculous.
You keep saying you're an artist.
No one
respects you.
Literally no one cares.
Listen, I respect a lot of artists. We have quite a few of them, actually, in our Discord.
Yeah.
He ain't it. He has so much... He has so much that I hate about him. I don't care that you're an artist. He keeps throwing attacks at Luffy that just end up backfiring. Shut the fuck up. No one respects you. Luffy doesn't respect you. No one respects you. Your parents probably don't respect you because you're
fair.
ugly.
That's what, well, because he became an artist. They're like, oh, we're disappointed.
And again, I feel like the Miss Golden Week panel at the end definitely shows that something's happening. But I feel like this whole chapter kind of took me nowhere. Yes, we're moving to the next section. But like half of this could have been removed and we still have the same end result. I just wasn't impressed. I did kind of like Mr. 3 chomping Usopp's bullet, but only because it's setting us up for something more exciting later on. And I do think it's very exciting. It's just a lot of back and forth, and I just felt like it kind of ended. Colors Trap makes you think what's happening, but I don't know that it really gives you any consequence throughout the whole chapter. So, to summarize, Luffy is getting into it, but I didn't feel much. This chapter, granted, is just the beginning of what's to come. I liked Luffy's use of Mr. 3's own wax weapons, but that's like all I have to say, because even his use of Mr. 3's wax weapons, I don't feel like we are in a completely different place than we were at the beginning of this chapter. It was fun-ish. It was action-packed. But we're not moving forward. We didn't get anything new. And yeah. 124.
It was a continuation, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And 124 is V.
Yeah. Okay. Intro image. Is that Sanji with glasses? Because it kind of looks like Kobe if he was a babe.
Kind of. If I may, you just bring up Sanji.
If it wasn't for the cigarette, Kobe wouldn't smoke.
Right?
Kobe wouldn't smoke.
No,
He's a good
no,
boy.
he's
Yeah,
too much of a
he's a
straight
good
edge.
boy.
But doesn't he give a little bit of Kobe vibes like that?
I just want to bring up something. We have not said his name this whole chapter. I know it's going to change.
Sanji?
Yeah.
It's going to
yeah.
change.
Yeah, that was the thing that was getting me when I was reading this. Like,
Where's-
bro, like I feel like Sanji could have handled some of this shit
Where's
pretty
my-
easily.
where's my
I feel like
kick, bro?
I feel like he could have kicked this cabin, bro.
There's a reason for
Yeah.
it, and we'll soon find out. But at least
Yep.
up to this point, we're like, okay.
Well, we had a moment last volume where we were like, what's Usopp's name again? Who's
Yeah.
that guy? The guy with the nose? This is kind of Sanji this time around.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. Last volume, he had almost nothing to contribute to. But
Yeah,
we're getting there.
I feel like that might be... It is a lot of characters.
We're getting a lot of Usopp. We are.
Yeah. Now it's... Usopp's coming back. Like, we've sort of figured out that Luffy's always gonna kind of be there.
Zoro kind of too.
Zoro's... Yeah, Nami always kind of. But Sanji and
Yeah, you gotta have the original
Usopp
three.
have kind of... They take turns, it seems. Which... I don't mind, because I guess whenever I do see them, I get excited to see them again. Whereas if they were there all the time, I don't know that I would feel that same kind of excitement. But, you know. Anyway,
Things will
so
change.
the intro image... Foreboding. Yeah, so my first thought when I saw the intro image was Sanji kind of looks like Kobe if he was a babe. Yeah, so this chapter to me was very much kind of an explanation and a deeper dive into Miss Golden Week's power, which I have thoughts on
A whole chapter
later
for
on.
that.
Yeah, this is essentially, what does Miss Golden Week do? is
That should have been the name
124.
of it.
Yeah, what she do? And so at first, my hypothesis, which was proven correct, is that I was guessing that the symbol that Luffy was standing on at page 4 was a sigil of sorts that
You had a thought
curses
before
or
you
controls
knew?
you.
You saw it? Like,
Well,
because it's so,
Yeah,
it's
when
so
I
subtle.
when I saw him standing, at the very top of page 2, I was like, he's standing on something. This is a little sus.
Okay.
And I was thinking it was a symbol of sorts.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
So I hadn't necessarily done the association that the sigil equals Miss Golden Week, but I had noticed the sigil, and it felt like this is something that could have cursed or controlled Luffy in that moment, because he wasn't acting like that prior to that. We have another good comedic moment at the bottom of page 4 and at the top of page 5 with Miss Valentine saying, "He's escaping on the duck," and then and then the shot of Karoo just bolting the fuck out of there. Like, for some reason, I don't know. Karoo, I love Karoo as a character, and we have gone through a little bit of an emotional roller coaster with him. But just the he's escaping on the duck, it's ridiculous. And then at the very next page you see Karoo just bolting, like, with his wide-eyed open mouth expression, quack, like, wait, no, I'm not in the saddle yet. It's ridiculous. This whole thing
like
is
that
ridiculous.
Karoo's first instinct is to get the hell out of there always.
It's just, oh yeah, he's a duck.
Yeah,
What else is he
What do you
supposed to
want
do?
from him?
Exactly. So, and I don't know if this is, it might be a hot take or whatever. I actually really like Miss Golden Week's power.
Okay, I take a little different stance.
To me, I think part of it is because I'm maybe a little bit artistically inclined as a person.
She doesn't brag about being an artist, so she actually is one.
I'm not I wouldn't call myself an artist. I write, but I wouldn't call myself an artist, but I grew up around a lot of art. I feel like the color of the paint having an influence on the emotion being felt is it's just a cool concept. And as far as, I don't know, it's
Oh, and there's science behind it,
right,
too.
exactly. And it's very appealing to me for some reason. Part of it, I think, is because it is more subtle. It's not as in your face as some of the other powers, but it's still very powerful, and you can still do a lot with that.
The cool point, like, with the colors being tied to certain emotions. I went to Pearl Harbor and actually got to tour a battleship, one of the older battleships, and went in and it's like, oh, this is the command deck. It's like, as you see it in the movies, it's always red.
Yeah.
Like, there's always red lighting in here. It's just to add to the intensity of the movie, but it's like, no. On an actual battleship, this room is blue because blue is a calming
Right.
color.
Oh.
It's meant to
a
just
very good
subconsciously keep you a little
Right.
calm,
There's
keep you a little more calm, cool, and collected, so you don't make
yeah,
fuck-ups.
there's like plenty of science now, at the time, and even more now, as it's been a long time since this has been written. I like that idea. Again, it's a lot of potential, and I feel like if I were to compare the potential of reach between Mr. Three's power and Miss Golden Week's power, I think that Miss Golden Week's power would trump over. It's not the same. It's very subtle. It's very different, but I feel like there would be even more to do with Miss Golden Week's power.
Well, yeah, the subtlety gives you way more
Absolutely.
options.
Absolutely.
Whereas it's like, you do it, everyone knows what the fuck you're doing.
And I feel like, I think it might be a hot take because it is a little bit more subdued, or it's actually quite a bit more subdued than some of the other powers that we've seen so far. But to me, easily in my top 3 of like the favorite powers or
If I may.
devil fruit powers. Yeah, go
You
ahead.
say devil fruit, but
We don't know.
No,
We don't know for sure.
in this volume, no one has. You are typically given a devil fruit name, at least as far as we've seen. She has not had that.
She has not, yeah. And I don't think, actually, in my notes, I never refer to it as a devil fruit power.
Yeah.
I just refer to it as her power because we do not know for sure. And I don't know what kind of magic she has summoned, if it is a devil fruit or if it's something else, but I really like it. I really, really enjoy it.
I love that you like it.
I'm glad. Okay, a little bit of a jab at Luffy. The shot at the bottom of page 6 with Luffy just standing there and the caption around him saying hypnotic powers would be devastating against a simple-minded fool like him. He wouldn't
He's
stand
just
a chance.
standing there.
He's just standing there straight. It is the funniest thing. And I think that's Zoro thinking that. Yeah, there's so much room in his head.
There's so much room for fucking anything to get in there.
For anything to get in there and just take control. Yeah, then, okay, so they get him out of the black symbol, the betrayal one, but another symbol appears on his shirt, this time in yellow for laughter. Again, the color theory comes in, like, extra hard, and we see several instances of that in this chapter. And then the next symbol, bullfight red, sticks Luffy to the spot where the symbol is drawn, as in he's like laser focused on that spot as a bull would be towards something
Matador
red, basically. Cape. Yeah, exactly. And I think that the one shortcoming that I would say is that it depends entirely on the symbol staying intact. So it is contingent on that, but still I feel like it is super powerful. I did want to point out, the middle of page 12. Maybe this is going to come across as one of those like corny lines coming from Zoro, but I'm choosing to view it as poetic cynicism when he says, "See, you two should have struck a pose like me," because when he's being cast in wax, he chooses to like raise his sword up in the air like a fucking badass. He's like, listen, if I'm gonna be cast in wax for the rest of eternity,
they're
gonna
know
cool.
what I'm about.
Yeah, exactly. You should have struck a pose. You're lost. And I was like, my man. I appreciate the fact that Usopp and Karoo are kind of taking the lead back as
Usopp needs Karoo, and Karoo needs Usopp.
Yes, and I kind of love that duo. But it's like everything now relies on them because everyone else, to some extent, is incapacitated. I'm getting the same kind of effect where it becomes a little bit of a blur to me because it's a lot to keep track of. And I'm wondering if it's not related to the amount of simultaneously active characters. My ADHD brain has trouble keeping up. But I really do appreciate that now we're getting a little bit of a rise again from Usopp, who has been lying relatively dormant for these past few chapters / volumes even. He's
volumes.
Certainly taken a back seat, but I'm happy to see him up and at 'em again. I have thoughts on the ending of this. I feel like they're trying really hard. It's just a lot. Again, I feel like it's hard to focus on one thing and really enjoy it when there's so much going on.
It is pretty cluttered.
Yeah, it's cluttered. That's exactly it. It feels that's the perfect way to put it, Dylan, actually. It feels cluttered, and it's like now they're trying to drive the action forward, but they've set themselves up to be in a little bit of like a horde of characters and powers.
They have to give, Miss Golden Week something. And this feels like them giving it to them because it has to be given.
Well, the thing is, like, it is cluttered, which does kind of make it a little hard to follow, but at the same time, it really leans into, like, the chaos of the moment.
Right.
Where it's like, there's all these bad guys, and there's just 3 of them trying to fight off all these people at the same time.
You gotta think about the reader, too.
Right.
I mean, you do, but, like, this is his way of, like, hey, it's like, okay, these 3 are fighting to save their friends, but they have to fight 5 people at the same time. There's 3 on 5.
And maybe that's a shortcoming of the written / drawn format, where it does make it harder to keep track of the action and what's going on and who's involved and whatnot. I don't disagree.
Well, the animated might do
I don't
better
disagree with you, Dylan, that it is meant to portray kind of the chaos of the situation itself, but the story gets lost in it for me. And as the reader who's trying to keep track, it makes it difficult.
I agree. It might have been better to like kind of shorten out some of the other chapters and spread this whole scenario into several chapters.
Yeah.
Cut out all the monologuing and then cut this
Maybe Mr. 3 didn't
into a
have
couple
to go
separate
on
chapters.
For ages. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a psychopath, so you know he had to.
So a little bit of criticism there, but I'm not hating on this volume, but there's some moments of where it's blurry. Page 19, I guess this is the first time that I've really noticed how ripped Luffy is.
It's happened before. We've seen him ripped before. We have.
Right, but we mostly see him with his, like, little vest on or whatever, and now he doesn't, and it's like, okay. And now he's really mad, as he says so himself. But I think this is the first time we see him, like, completely... I don't really pay attention to Luffy in that way. But the first time I've noticed him being, like, bare-chested, not wearing anything. But yeah, I did have just something I wanted to say with regards to the SBS.
Oh, yeah?
I like the explanation of the Egyptian vibe of Django's goatee in the SBS, because we mentioned that when we were in that section of the manga earlier on. And yeah, I liked that they kind of went back to it and gave Django a little bit more attention. It was a good callback.
Oh, yeah, that is a really good point. It's just after it was like, yeah, no, the goat, like, he doesn't watch because he's a starving dancer. It's a mushroom. It's like, ew.
Yeah,
like
now
disgusting.
He's actually talking about how the author was thinking when he designed
right.
Yeah.
And that makes sense.
It makes a shitload of sense.
And that's what I had for 124.
All right. We have him dealing with the fact that, like, Luffy's fully entranced. And that was a good call out, like, seeing him stand on this, like, actually seeing the marking underneath him. It's like kind of a way to let you know it's like, hey, something's up. This isn't Luffy, but he's standing on something we didn't notice before. And then, of course, Mr. 5 and Miss Wednesday, like, when Usopp and Kuro are like, what the fuck's going on? Like, it's so weird. And they monologue, it's like, oh, you got caught in her trap. This is how her power works. It's like, hey, you know what would really lean into your success? If you stop explaining how this shit works. If you would just
shut up and let it happen.
Like, shut the fuck up and just let it, like, okay, yeah, no, we're not gonna tell you. Who knows? The fucking line from Miss Valentine, be like, he's escaping on the duck. I played Final Fantasy games, though. It's like, no, yeah, get on the chocobo. You don't have to deal with combat in the overworld. Like, I get it.
And you had a little music playing in the background. Love it.
Bum, 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 bum. I'm wondering if that's, like, I'm curious if that's the inspiration for Karu. As if it was a chocobo, and the fact that it's like, you're always running away. You don't get into combat with him, because every time he's tried to be ridden to fight, it's always gone wrong, because like when
it might, because
he was trying to ride in to fight,
the chocobos are date from 1988. Because they were introduced in Final Fantasy 2.
Yeah, oh yeah, like Final Fantasy, yeah. And like the thing is, like if you're riding a chocobo in the overworld, you don't get into combat. And like every time Vivi was trying to ride him into combat, he was running the opposite direction. He was running her out of combat. So that's, to me, it's like, is that the inspiration? Because if so, that makes sense. And I love like fucking the top panel on 5, fucking Karu, quack. And it's like, wait, I'm not assembled yet. Wait, hey, stop, let me get on. And then looking back and seeing him like is scared of Usopp. And it's like, why are you so scared of me? I'm a duck. It's because you don't have bread. And then Vivi kind of connecting the dots. It's like, Miss Golden Week, this is your handiwork, isn't it? And then it's snacking is like, hey, this is how my powers work. Again, why do bad guys have to be like, yeah, this is how the good guys don't do that shit. They just hit you with it and like, yeah. But Vivi's kind of a smart cookie. Cause she sees that and she's immediately like, oh, okay, like he doesn't, it's betrayal. And she's like, all right, well, no, the last thing you want to do is step off that symbol. And he's like, well, fuck that. Fuck you. I'm not going to do what you tell me. And I am curious about the paint thing because they've said it's ordinary paint, but it's got to be some kind of gum or not gum, devil fruit power. Either that or it's like, there's some level of like chemicals or fucking magic to it. But there's an interesting concept of like the color theory being used as the power. And like I kind of liked like the page, like the interactions on page 13. It's like Usopp's trying to hit the death blow lead star. They're dodging it. Mr. Five's like, it's getting us nowhere, and pulls out a gun. Says, I don't want to use this on small fry like these, but... And Usopp kind of like surprisingly like optimistic about it. It's like, all right, well, pistol. Let's see if we can dodge some bullets. It's like, that's very brave of you, Usopp.
Bold.
That's extremely brave of you. You'll never dodge the bullets from my 6-shot 44 caliber flintlock revolver. My understanding, flintlock and revolver are not two things that work. That's not how those work. But who knows? It's a fantasy world.
Yeah.
Potentially you could do it, but it's like the danger, like they've created some shit like that. The danger with something like that is you have powder in all the chambers. You have the danger of a multi-shot where it's like the strike goes off, the flash pan, it ignites the main bullet, but then it also ignites all 5 other chambers at the same time. Super dangerous. The wheel lock rifle is a very good example of that, where that was a very big risk. Look it up. From what we see, you see it later, but it looks like he's just blowing into the revolver chamber, and it's like, eventually learn it's like, oh, his breath is flammable. Okay, cool idea, but then again, it's like, how the fuck does the gun project that? I was going to ask you about that.
I had it in my notes.
That's not how it works. It doesn't. Now, if you were to put a little fucking booger in there and then put your breath behind it to where a spark would light that breath and shoot the booger, that makes sense. That works. But just breathing into the cylinders, it's just gas.
If you think of his breath as just pure
there's no projectile.
Yeah,
it's just gonna flash off. There's no projectile.
Right. There's nothing there to blow. Ooh.
But I did love the fact that Usopp is thinking ahead and it just uses the fire star on Luffy to burn off his clothes because he knows the clothes has the marking. Very smart. And then we get the, he's not shooting. And then the kaboom, breeze breath bomb, which, again, the gun could be cool and could work, but the way it's used, no. Now, if you're making, like, a hollow booger that you blew your breath into, booger balloon, essentially, that blows a bunch of breath into, so it's a high, like an HE round.
Have a whole fucking clip of boogers.
I mean, if I was him, that's all I'd be doing. I'd just be like picking, licking, rolling, and not flicking, but putting it in the revolver to shoot off. Yeah.
Sticking.
Nah. Anyways. But the bottom panel of, like, you're not going to kill my friends now, I'm really mad, was great. Great way to end it.
With the yoked fucking Luffy.
Yeah. Dude's kind of fucking cut up. Like,
right?
Somebody get a Band-Aid, this motherfucking cut. But that's all I got. My cat.
So, my first thought on this was manga villains will be manga villains.
Yeah.
This transcends even manga. You see it in Western media and all that, where they have to explain their plan. They have to explain how it works. The protagonist gets all the information they need. I can't criticize that because it's so common. But I want to, but I won't. Maybe me bringing it up is criticism. Anyway, I am in love with the Usopp Karoo combo.
Mm-hmm.
That is the team up of, like, that's the 1-2 punch. It's one of the best 1-2s that we've seen so far.
It's kind of like, hey, Usopp, this is how you can be useful.
Yeah.
Keep riding the duck.
I really like the reverse psychology thing. Like, Vivi has really been...
She's a smart cookie.
Yeah,
she's tough, too. She's mentally tough. And
she's not just a princess. She's got some grit.
She's not a warrior. She's not, but she's tough.
Yeah.
So, a lot of this chapter, especially the paint stuff, it felt more like a skit to me than an actual part of the plot, the progress, everything.
I get that. I feel like that might be a result of just us having too many of them. I feel like if more emphasis was put on that, maybe we would have been more interested or more focused on it, whereas now we just have to... It's just one part of many other parts that we're trying to make into a cohesive structure, you know?
So I'm going to just go over some lackeys that we've seen. Pearl. Django.
Yeah.
And I'm even going to put Chew in there. Chew.
Yeah.
Not even Karubi or Hachin, but Chew. They were there, they did their thing, and they're gone. But Miss Golden Week has been kind of there the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
She's just been a part of it for no other reason. And then she shows up, and yes, I do like the concept behind it, but I just think the execution was a skit rather than an actual part of the...
I don't disagree with you. I agree, actually, that the execution of that part was a little lackluster, especially considering the fact that I do think that there's still a lot of potential with that power. It's kind of lost in everything else. Whereas, you're right, when we were talking about, Chew or Django or any of the other, like, lackeys, like you said, even Pearl, I feel had more of a shining moment than she did, yet she's been there longer. Yeah. But it doesn't feel like it, because there's been so much else going on at the same time.
Mm-hmm. I do want to turn your attention to page 15 at the top. The wax figures look so good. Like, the whiteout, this is the opposite of over-inked.
Yeah.
This is perfectly under-inked. Like, they are in trouble. 15 at the top?
At the very top, yeah. Like, so pale.
I like that. It's so pale. It's so waxy, and yeah.
Yeah.
And then Usopp uses his firebomb to bring Luffy out of his shtick, and I love it. We're gonna see more from Usopp in the next chapter or so. But this is the start of something that I truly felt was special. Like, this was my shining moment from this chapter, was Usopp stepping up and putting one right where it needs to be. Good for Usopp. He needed it. It's been a while. Growth is a strong word, but he's
showing up again.
He's trying.
Yeah.
And yeah, my last word on this chapter, besides my summary, which is coming, was Luffy is looking yoked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's look for some duct tape because he's ripped.
Yeah. So what I said was this chapter was extraordinarily lame. I did not feel particularly intrigued by this chapter or a lot of what went down in it.
This was the chapter I had the fewest notes on.
It may be one of the worst chapters, individual chapters, that we've read yet, in my personal opinion. And I don't know. I liked Usopp. I liked, bits and pieces here and there. But it's not doing it for me. But 125 is Dylan.
I love the fucking cover art where it's Vivi's trying to just like look trendy, where fucking Kuro's trying to be dapper as shit. Justin's little bow tie. I'm not a bow tie guy myself, more of a tie guy. But and then hey, we finally see him. We see Simp Boy Extreme.
Simp Boy
Sanji.
Sanji's just like, something's definitely wrong, very wrong. They've been gone a long time. Why haven't they come back?
You've been gone a long time.
I don't know, it's like, could something have happened to Nami or Vivi? Alright, I'm gonna go look for him. I'm just like, as it's going through the jungle, it's like, Nami! Vivi!
I love you!
Fucking Sabretooth tries to, like, attack him, and then, like, next panel, it's crying with a giant knot on its head. He's riding it. Hey, you out there, I love you. And he stumbles upon the wax house. And then we cut back. And then Cringe Lord Mr. 3 comes back in. It's like, that's right, the taste the bitterness of despair. And he's pretty much in a fucking wax mech suit, which kind of cool, I guess.
I liked that.
Yeah,
I did not care for it.
It's okay.
It's so goofy with his little head sticking out at the top.
Yeah. And then Mr. 5 was like, oh, he once took down a criminal worth 42 million berries with that thing. And it's kind of cute, kind of cool to hear, like, the way they use their powers in tandem. Because Mr. 3 is like, come, Miss Golden Week slaps some paint on me with artistry, I'll crush that. And it's like, give me the right paints and I'll fucking destroy them. It's
like orcs from Warhammer. Give them some red paint.
Yeah, because red makes them go fast. Well, you mentioned that orcs and Warhammer, it's like, if they believe it, it becomes reality. It's not so.
That's not what's happening here.
And it's not. I don't know, Luffy's like, whoa, dude, that's so cool.
In the same boat.
Yeah, Luffy's like any, like, 14 to 18-year-old, like, let's just say any 14 to 40-year-old dude looking at Warhammer figurines. And it's like, whoa, dude, that's so cool.
How much did you spend on that?
Way too much. I can't afford rent. Gotta admit, with the paint job, looks a little better.
Yeah.
With the shading on it, I kind of like it a little better. And then Usopp's finally putting shit together. It's like, oh shit, the mist is melted wax. And it's getting ready to hit him with another firebomb attack. Like I was mentioning earlier, like a lot of his attacks seem like they would be very, very effective against the wax because he does a lot of fire and explosions. So he's lining that up. But Mr. 5 hits him with the stupid breath bomb shit. More monologuing. They start fucking up Usopp. Although, I mean, I gotta admit, like the whole, maybe it's Miss Valentine. It's like, oh, I'm gonna sit on you 10 kilos, 100 kilos, 200 kilos. It's like, damn, alright.
It's kind of hot.
Alright, shit, Crusher, more stones. 3 is like, I'll give it up. They're already become my works of art. And Luffy, forget it, I'm not losing my friends. Till the likes of you, as he grabs his stupid fucking haircut. The grin on his face is like, if he will melt the wax, then I use this fire right here, and it's just yanking it by his hair. He's like, ew, stop pulling my hair. It hurts. Ew. But then, you see Usopp's plan. Luffy, that flame's too small, like Karo's rope, the bird's rope. And you see the bird is kind of wrapped up the whole thing, and it's liquid wax been spraying on it. This is a wick. Oh, and not even that. Fucking Usopp is soaked the fucking rope in oil. The line, it's gonna get, from Usopp, it's gonna get hot, but grit your teeth and bear it. Alright, Usopp. Alright.
I didn't notice that at first, but yeah, I kind of like it too.
Right,
He's
respect.
like, hey, this ain't gonna be easy.
The half page as it gets lit up, just like the fireball that ensues. That's good. I like that art.
Seen a lot of fireballs lately.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, when you're dealing with wax, what are you gonna do? That's all I got.
So, okay, you touched on it, but Karoo in the intro image is looking cooler than I ever will. Let's be honest. He's got the bucket hat, he's got the headphones, he's got the bow. What a fucking boss. clean, sharp drip. So much drip on this fucking duck. Yeah, and so it seems like Sanji's thirst for the poontang is leading him straight into danger. And somehow I'm not surprised that this would be the case. It's the kind of thing that would backfire. I mean, you know, we've seen it happen before. We'll see it happen again. I feel like I'm having issues with the pacing of the latter half of this volume. I appreciate the artistry of the wide 2-page panel at pages 4 and 5, but I'm not sure that the scene itself deserves that 2-page spread.
Yeah, I get that.
Like, it looks good, but I feel like there's so many different scenes that I would have seen or considered to be more deserving of a 2-page spread over this one. I don't know if they really wanted to put the emphasis on Luffy being shirtless. If we were talking about Zoro, I might be more inclined to agree. In this case, I'm like, okay. But as we mentioned in the previous chapter, his physique is on full display in this chapter. I did touch on it in the previous chapter, but good on Zoro for deciding to strike a pose. If you're going to be cast in wax forever, you might as well look cool as fuck doing it. Right. And to not give Mr. 3 the satisfaction of having a terrified look on your face.
Yeah.
Because you know that's what he wants. And then you're like, you know what? I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna spite you to the very end, you little bitch. Michael mentioned liking the Candle Champion. To me, it comes out of nowhere, and I don't really care for its introduction. I feel like even to a certain extent, as much as I dislike how much Mr. 3 rambles on and on and on and on forever, his powers themselves, I think, were pretty cool, and I feel like the introduction of the Candle Champion just kind of cheapens it. Like, I don't know what was the point of it. I could have done without entirely. I feel like the potential of Mr. 3's powers were sufficiently cool that it didn't need the introduction of the Candle Champion. Okay. Bottom of page 7, Luffy being like, ooh, cool, when he sees the Candle Champion. Priorities, Luffy, priorities. And both Usopp and Karoo are shocked right behind him that he'd take the time to admire the Candle Champion. I'd be right there
with Luffy, I'd be like, damn.
But, like, you know, I'm not particularly surprised that Luffy's attention would be drawn to that, but I would be joining Karoo and Usopp being like, really, dude? Really? Now is not the time. And then, yeah, so they kind of figure out that wax can indeed remain liquid if it's hot enough. Science. I had a little bit of a chuckle at the bottom of page 11 when Miss Golden Week kind of confirms the hypothesis, and Mr. 3 is like, you shut your mouth right now. Don't give her her secrets. But yeah, like just that bottom panel at page 11 with Luffy, Miss Golden Week in the background nodding, and Mr. 3 in the suit being like, don't give away her secrets. That was pretty good. That was comical. Okay, and I have to say, we were talking about how Mr. 5 looks like a character from The Matrix, like Morpheus or Neo with the trench coat and everything. Yeah. The bottom panel of page 12, as Mr. 5 shoots a breeze breath bomb at Usopp, he looks pretty cool there. And I knew Dylan was going to comment on the gun stuff. That's not my personal area of expertise, but what I can tell you is that I thought it looked really cool.
It does look cool.
It looks cool. It looks cool.
Bullshit.
It might be bullshit, but it looks cool. Yeah, so as we are progressing through the chapter, I'm gathering that Usopp's plan is to use the rope that's tied to Karoo for something, but Miss Valentine goes ahead and sits on him and crushes him as she gets heavier and heavier, and my notes say that's gotta be someone's fetish. Listen, it is what it is. And she's wearing that cute little dress? But yeah, again, you know, we have like crushing fetish, we had inflation fetish, we're just racking them up, boys.
Checking the boxes.
There's something for everyone. And then, yeah, so over the last few pages, we see that the goal was to encircle the wax structure with the oil-soaked rope and to light it on fire. And sure enough, they used Mr. Three's candle head to set it ablaze. I kind of wish that the very last image of this chapter was more clear. There's a lot of potential for dramatic imagery, and you see some of it with the way that the lines are drawn as in a very long and wavy way, and the deep shadows and everything. But I'm just not seeing enough. This is maybe a little bit of a voyeurism moment for me that isn't being quelled. I just wish I could have seen more of what was actually happening, and not just the broad big lines and the everything being set ablaze. I just wanted a little bit more to dig my teeth into as we ended that chapter. We are going to see a little bit more of it in the next chapter, but I feel like it maybe would have had a little bit more impact as the end of chapter 125 and not as the beginning of 126, just in terms of the pacing of the events that are occurring as we're finishing up this volume. That's what I had for 125. Mikhail?
All right. So, I also loved this cover. This is my favorite of just the little one-off covers. Karoo is tightening his little bow. He's like, I look
so cute.
good.
He knows that he looks good.
He's like, shut up, baby. I know it.
Yeah.
I like seeing Sanji again. It's been too long since we've seen him do something, and we still haven't really seen him do
Yeah, we
anything.
didn't really see anything, honestly.
Yeah. But it gives us the idea that something else is coming, which we'll see. I also really enjoyed him walking around in the jungle. Like, I love you. Is that bringing everyone back? I love you. Hello? I personally loved Candle Champion. I have a soft spot in my heart for mech and mech-like things.
It does really give the
Especially with
Warhammer vibes.
Pilot. Yeah.
I mean, I get. Maybe that's a boys thing.
Except for Neo
get it.
Genesis Evangelion.
But that's not the same thing, though. That's not. Okay, we're not going to get
let's
into
not
it.
touch that. That's weird.
It's not,
I didn't like it.
I loved it, but it's because
It was
it's
good,
not,
but the shit that
it's
happened, I
not
was
a
like-
mech anime. It's so much more than a mech anime within the context of mechs, but the mechs aren't.
The mechs
at
need to
the
look
core,
cool, but it's a
they're a
psychological horror. Yeah.
conduit. Yes,
I appreciate
Exactly.
the love of mechs. I'm just going to say that. And I thought that this one just tickled that in me just enough. I was with Luffy the whole way. I was like, yeah, that is cool, Luffy. Admire it. I would say that being waxed to death, as far as Nami, Vivi, and Zoro is concerned, is a really terrible way to go. I just want to
Yeah,
put that out
like the gradual sugfocation and the seizing of your lungs.
Yeah, that sucks. God.
Any kind of death where you have the time to see it coming and processing it.
I don't even want to talk about it.
Where it's like falling out of the airplane and having parachute failures to the point where you're like, oh no.
Or it's like
backup
getting
chute
buried
failed.
alive. It's the same vibe as getting buried alive. Yeah.
I don't want to think about that. I'm moving on.
Or like in Shogun when the guy got bullied alive.
Stop. Usopp in this chapter, really in this volume, he took some tough losses, some L's, as I put them in my notes. But he is trying every step of the way. Since it mattered, Usopp has been putting effort in. And I'm going to give him an A for effort. As far as the ending of this, the final panel, the big black ink contrast with the washed out white and the flames and everything, I thought it was real good. Like, oof. It gave me everything I was looking for here. And just to kind of summarize, there was some real good art in this. And action, too. I wouldn't say that this chapter made up for any of the flaws that came before it. And I don't even think it did not, how do I want to say this? It introduced its own flaws, but I don't think they were big enough to really detract. But it wasn't great. Again, we've had a series of chapters that were just not excellent. However, I love the next chapter. I love it. And that one, 126, is going to be V.
I'm happy to see Django again.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit. It's Django, and we just heard about him a little bit earlier on in one of the SBSs. Just happy to see him again. And so yeah, to me, page 2 of this chapter shows more of the scale and the drama that I was expecting at the end of the previous chapter. To me, like I said, it's not an issue in terms of art. It might be an issue in terms of pacing. Like I said, I feel like I would have liked to see this at the end of the previous chapter, as opposed to at the beginning of this chapter. But I like seeing the scale of it, the flames just destroying this structure and, you know, slowly melting away at everything. I like the image. And I like everything that is the meaning that it carries, and the fact that it's going to bring about like some of our protagonists being freed from their wax prison. Maybe it's just me being difficult because I know that it can be done better, but to me the pacing was just a little bit off. Still, I wholly appreciate the art and the impact that this scene has. Also, I kind of love the name of Miss Valentine's attack at page 4, 10,000 Kilo Guillotine. As someone with French ancestry, I appreciate a good guillotine. They are effective, and they get shit done.
Well, except to kind of ruin your government for, like, a long time. There's a lot of corruption behind it.
That's not my government. I said French ancestry. Nami complaining about the heat, because I think it is Nami that's complaining about the heat, or it might be Nami or Vivi at this point, but Nami complaining about the heat feels too real. I tend to run hot, and this for sure would have me whining like a princess too.
Mrs. Canadian.
Listen, it's been in the freedom units, today went up to 104. I'm not made for that.
Ew,
I'm not made for 104 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm just not, and I hated every second of my commute
We're
back
getting
home.
108 this Sunday.
Isn't it awful? Doesn't it fucking suck? Yeah, it does.
No, you're not wrong.
Listen, as someone that just isn't made for heat, I can understand why Nami would complain about how hot it gets. I get it.
No, I get it too. When I get home, my AC is set to 6 and 7.
Oh yeah, just blast it. Fucking blast it. And okay, so top of page 6, Nami and Vivi looking fine as all fuck, okay? And badass to boot. The more I see them together, the more I appreciate the sisterly duo that's forming. I really like them together as kind of the female members of the Straw Hats. For now, I don't know. It's a really good panel, and it's just it's powerful. It's yeah, we're out of this wax and we're gonna fuck shit up, and I'm all about it. And I feel like we haven't had much emphasis on these two as a duo really thus far, and that kind of solidifies that, and I appreciate that. Mr. 5 getting taken down by Usopp's hot sauce.
Yeah.
First of all, it's a great callback. We saw him working on it earlier in the story, and I remember us actually commenting on him making the hot sauce, and finally, it's happening. It is
a great callback.
It was so good. And just his face at the bottom panel of page 7 when he says, "Sorry, but I'm a fibber. That wasn't a bomb. It was my deluxe pepper sauce star." Excellent. Hell yeah. Usopp. It's silly. It's silly as fuck, but it's so good. It's so Usopp, right?
It's so Usopp. Oh my god.
I love it. I love it. And then all of page 9.
Put yourself together for a second.
All of page 9. My notes say, Zoro, my king. It's an absolute treat. With his... It's everything. With his flaming sword slashing through Mr. 5's body, and the corner shot of him with the sword in his mouth, and another in his close fist, was just... chef's kiss. And then we get the beautiful resolution of it at the top of page 10 when we see him kneeling with one leg, the other one showing that his shin is still injured. That was another fucking king moment for Zoro. And he says, it's good to be alive. It's good to see you alive, babe. Like, I was all over those 2 pages. Just so good. And the sheer artistry of it, particularly for me, the page 9, the way that everything is drawn, it's kind of wispy, kind of airy, because we're getting the he's trying to, Oda's trying to show the fire that's going on and just the movement and everything. It looks so good. It's like waves of flames on Zoro's body. It's so
Mr.
good.
Five's body looks wild.
Oh, absolutely.
Bottom right.
Oh, yeah. It's like decimated. Like he's being just slashed apart.
If he wasn't dead before, he must be now.
Right. Just great page. Great page. And as much as I really appreciate the Karoo Usopp duo, but I also really like the Luffy Karoo team. In some ways, it seems as though they're on the same wavelength, and I don't know whether that reflects. I don't know if that reflects poorly on Luffy or highly on Karoo.
Well, just like screeching intensifies.
But to me, this also, it's making me hope that Karoo is going to become actually like a member of the Straw Hats, or is going to be a staple in the story going forward.
Unofficial mascot.
Right. He works so well with all of the other team members so far, and I like him. I like Karoo a lot. He's great, and the fact that he's tight with the captain, I don't know. We'll see. Okay, and now bottom of page 13, the Oda decides to introduce Where's Waldo. did you guys...
Luffy's back, though. Hold on. For just a second.
Yeah,
Oda said, hold on.
Let me give him a little more attention. I do get... Like, I can't...
Little twink boy.
I can't... Like, I'm so not attracted to Luffy as a character.
But physically?
He's brain dead.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, give me some credit. Come on,
like
now.
he's a little too dumb for me. Like there
would be no conversation worth having.
Well, this kind of hurts. I kind of tied myself to Luffy a little bit. This is how you feel about me.
So, Oda decides to introduce Where's Waldo in the half page at page 13, and I am wondering, did you guys have those books as children?
Yeah. Dude, like, do you bring up a story? We actually had one of the really, really old ones that was probably worth like a bit of money. My parents had close friends.
Oh no!
Let some of their close friends stay, and then their dipshit kid looked at it and circled all the Waldos. And absolutely fucking ruined the fucking book.
That.
It's like, oh my, beat your children. Beat your children. They do shit like that. Beat your children. Cut that. But beat your children.
Don't beat your children. Don't beat your children. I had 3 of the Where's Waldo's books, and I was thoroughly obsessed with them.
One of the Waldo's books shows tits.
I think you're right.
Because when it's on the beach where it's like a kid puts ice cream in her bag, you get to see titties. Let's go.
Fuck yeah, titties.
Let's fucking go. Because the 6-year-old was like, that's the shit I like. That's awesome.
And that was Dylan's sexual awakening. Over the next few pages as this chapter kind of unfolds, I like Luffy kind of proving Mr. 3 wrong. He thinks he's insulting him by telling him, you're just a powerful oaf who only acts on instinct, and the truth is that even if Luffy has gotten them into quite a bit of trouble, his instinct usually somehow also gets them out of it.
Yeah. Trust your gut.
Yeah, and as we've said before, he successfully fails his tasks. And sure enough, he relies on his instinct, and he kicks the correct Mr. 3 right in the face. Solely because of that. And I'm probably in the group one of like Luffy's worst critics. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it ain't baroque, don't fix it. But it works for him, and I think maybe that's why he's leaning so much on his instinct, or maybe he's just not a smart man. But regardless, it works. So all that to say, Luffy relying mostly on his instinct has both gotten them in trouble and also gotten them out of trouble, and I feel like maybe just a question of figuring out, is it worth it?
Yeah.
And so far, I think it has been.
It's done more good than harm.
Yes, I just don't know how long that'll last and at what cost this may come, but for now, it has paid off. Just as we are wrapping up this final chapter of this volume, I like the plot twist that we're getting over pages 18 and 19. Sanji gets into the hideout and gets comfy with a cup of tea. I don't blame him. I would like a cup of tea if I were, wandering around in the jungle looking for my friends. And he ends up being contacted by the one and only Mr. Zero.
It was a hot ending.
Yeah.
Hot,
just like seeing the jaw and the mouth.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Just that last page, you get the telesnail coming in, and he's like, "Oh, a telephone snail, it's ringing. Let me answer.
I'll fucking answer it.
I'll answer it." And then just
Papa John's, what can I get for you today?
That's essentially what he said.
In essence, yeah. And then just the "It's me, Mr. Zero," like Dylan said, with the nose, the mouth, the jaw, the woo onomatopoeia in the back, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna see him. We're gonna see Mr. Zero. And yeah, I mean, as much as I have qualms about the amount of antagonists that we've had with Baroque works, I feel like it's all been building up to this. I feel like all of the others are gonna be just kind of, I don't know.
I think, and you may differ once it comes to it, but I think that your criticisms will fall to the wayside once we get to the end. Whether that means it's Mr. Zero or something completely different.
I guess I'm just afraid that there's going to be a lot of time, quote unquote, wasted on the less important antagonists.
You might be right. Yeah, maybe.
To leave room for like the main ones. But for now, I'm like, okay, let's get to it. Like I don't want to say I'm getting impatient, but I am getting a little bit
where
impatient.
You want another like Zola whiskey peak where it's like, all right, handle the bullshit and let's get to the main guys.
Exactly. Yeah. That's where I'm at now. I'm like, okay,
this was fun. I get that, and I kind of agree with that.
Like, we had some cool powers, interesting encounters, the thing with the giants, it was like, I liked it, but I'm like, okay, it's time. It's time to move on. Like, this has gone on for too long, and I'm eager to get to where we're going. Not as bad as Dawn Krieg. Right,
but it's getting there. No, it's very much getting there.
I feel like Dawn Krieg was more of kind of the same thing, whereas I feel like we've had a little bit more variety here, because every character sort of has different powers, but it drags on in the same kind of way. So I kind of agree with what you're saying, Dylan.
Yeah, I don't have the back set of an ocean-bound restaurant, and that's not calming me down.
That's true. But that's what I had for chapter 126. Dylan.
Again, I agree with how you interpret it, where like the big burning of the candelabra could have been wrapped up in the last panel. Like maybe the last panel of the last chapter should have been like a 2-page spread of the candelabra just on fire, which would have been so striking, big cliffhanger. Probably would have worked a lot better.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, you know how they gave, like, just Luffy showing up, the 2-page spread? I feel like you should keep those 2-page spreads for those big, like, wide, panoramic, impactful moments.
Odo's just like, look at fucking Luffy's fucking lats.
I feel like with the 2-page spreads, like, Oda doesn't, I almost would say doesn't use them enough, but also, like, doesn't use them in the right spot. There's been a couple where it's like, oh my god, chef's kiss. But it's like, there's other ones where it's like, hey, man, you could have, like, condensed, like, 2 or 3 pages, just some bullshit, into a really good 2-page spread ender, where a picture is worth 1,000 words. I feel like you could have done that in this volume specifically, I feel like we could have done that. Again, I'm not an artist, I'm not a writer, I'm just a dumb MFer reading some One Piece. I love as he tries, like, as he's trying to run away, Luffy's like, oh, no, you don't, and fucking Karoo is also like, no, fuck that, quack, quack, and it's like, fucking, like, I'm going to murder you, rundown.
Quack, quack, motherfucker.
Yeah, quack, quack, motherfucker, what's up? Bottom left panel of page 3. Like that a lot. Karoo, like, this motherfucker don't fuck around. I'm really starting to like that bird.
He's freaking charging.
I want that bird to be here.
He's a tag bird.
And then, like, when we get Mr. 5 being like, they're underestimating us, it's like, no, you've been handled before. It's like, if it wasn't for Mr. 3, Zolo would have just fucking killed you. You'd be fucking dead. If it wasn't for Mr. 3, you'd be fucking dead. You got a stupid gun that doesn't work the way it should. You suck. Fuck you.
Your gun is stupid and you're stupid.
I will admit, the panel of the 10,000 kilo guillotine, pretty neat. But then, I'm kind of confused on who intercepts it.
It's some combination of Nami and...
What was really throwing me off was like Vivi, because the way her design is with all the lines and shit, like that really threw me off.
It almost looks like it's Don Krieg. The way her thing's spinning, it looks like one of the...
It looks like the shield.
His fucking shield.
It really does, yeah. And I love that Usopp is Death Blow Exploding Star, and he eats it, and it's like, hey, yeah, that wasn't a bomb, you dipshit.
That was so good.
That was pepper sauce. That's my hot sauce. I just shot a Carolina Reaper down your fucking throat, you dum-dum.
That was one of my favorite moments from this whole volume.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I know it's an anime trope, maybe stop announcing your fucking moves. Just do the move.
He announced the wrong move.
Which, again, was smart, where it's like, oh, I'm a fibber. It's like, oh, now you're getting it. Now you know how to fight against the anime tropes. Good job.
Yeah. Usopp's whole power is combating the tropes.
And I love, like, Usopp's like, ha, I personally checked its effectiveness. It's like, no, you didn't. Somebody bumped you when you were doing it and splashed in your eyes. And you almost went blind. And then fucking Zolo. I was like, all right.
Nah,
homie, I'm free and I'm on fire.
Oh.
And my leg's missing.
Yeah, no, his legs are still there. They're just bleeding real good.
Half missing.
And hits him with the flaming onigiri, which the art of that.
It's so good.
I want to see that. I want to see that animated, because I bet in the animated it slaps hard as shit.
And he has his bandana on, like just that. All of page 9 is delightful.
Well, because the thing is, like, I look at it from like animated shit I've seen, it really gives me like Demon Slayer vibes.
Yes.
Because like with the Demon Slayer, he's like the fire style. That's it's giving me those hard vibes, and I would really like to see it animated, because like you could do really well with that.
Yeah.
And I was always like, oh, Burning Sword, that's not a bad idea. Which Final Fantasy 9 Vivi did that shit with one of the characters. Okay, anyways. Final Fantasy.
Okay, Final Fantasy.
Okay, one of the characters is called Vivi. Cut me some slack. I'm allowed to be a nerd.
I mean, he's right.
You talk to Vivi, he's like, hey, set my sword on fire. It would be great. The bottom left panel of 10, Zolo wearing his bandana with a smirk. Just, it's good to be alive. You're fucking right, Zolo. It is. It is good to be alive. And then Brogy is just like, aye. And then you just see, like, the dead Dory. I was like, oh, that's a little sad. Damn. Miss Valentine, Mr. 5 handled like little bitches, as they are. I will agree with the Luffy-Karoo matchup. Just love that scene.
Yeah.
Like, that page. And the Karoo's like, yeah, no, fuck, I'm gonna peck that motherfucker's eyes out. And I just love the fact that Mr. 3 is like, ha ha ha, you're my fucking wax mansion, what are you gonna do? And like you said, V, just immediately, no holds bars, Gum stomps him in the fucking grill. It's like, how would you know? It's like, you dog
instinct.
shit. Yeah, you sat there and be like, oh, you only go on instinct. You're so stupid. It's like, instinct is the reason I killed you. Fuck you. God damn, that was hard as shit. That. And the panel where he says instinct is just like, yeah, fuck you.
It's a good classic shot of Luffy. Like,
I get Luffy, man. I do get Luffy. Like, and the ending's also a lot of fun. Like, Sanji has not been a part of this at all.
No.
And the ending where Sanji's just like, which it makes sense, where he would sip on some decent tea.
Yeah.
Because he's a cultured culinary man. And pulls out the phone. And I was like, sir, this is a Wendy's. I was like, all right, shut the fuck up. Quit fucking around. It's me, Mr. Zero. Like, phenomenal ending. This volume, I will admit, might be my least favorite. All the monologuing really fucked me up. I fucking do not like Mr. 3. His powers are cool. The art of his powers is really cool. But all of his fucking interactions and all the fucking just monologue was just dog shit. I did not like it. But this ending was like, all right. Maybe we can get something out of this. Maybe we'll salvage. Maybe the next volume will be really, really good.
This whole volume and the previous one, Sanji certainly took a backseat, and now it's like he's being forced back into the action.
I would love to see him in the front seat on this next one.
Yeah, I think this almost feels like a front seat.
Yeah, this is him being in the limelight again.
The right place at the right time.
Or the very wrong place at the wrong time.
Wrong. Yeah.
I just want another example of somebody monologuing and him just shutting the fuck up with his foot.
Yeah.
I need that again. I need it. But that's all I got this chapter.
All right, I'll make this
Michael.
quick. Yes. Django, at the very beginning. Fuck yeah, I forgot that this was coming. I do not like him more than Kobe or Helmeppa or Garp or anything like that, but it's such a blindside to see Django of all people here. At least that's the way I feel. I thought the action in this chapter really gave all the people who had been kind of too frozen to actually have...
That's a good point. Also, Django is way out of left field.
I thought this chapter really brought everyone back together in just a really good way. Having Zoro, Vivi, and Nami all waxed up, I thought kind of jammed up some of the action, some of what was interesting or could have been interesting about this. I thought some of the villains kind of sucked. I thought the giants were not made as good use as they could have been. But I felt like this chapter does not make the arc whole. I do not think this makes up for all of the missteps or anything like that. But I thought there was a lot of just weird artistic and author storytelling choices along the way. I thought it started out strong and it ended strong, but everything in the middle just left me wanting more. More logic, more action, more fun, more this, that, and the other. But this chapter right here, Zoro came in a big way. He only had a couple panels, and that was enough.
But he made them worth it.
Yeah.
This was some of the best Usopp I've seen. He's dealing with his cowardice in a way that's very mature and strong and fun. I loved it. I absolutely loved what Usopp had to do. And then Luffy running into the jungle, chasing him down. It was just a good way to wrap up the villains. And yeah, and then we ended it with Sanji and Mr. Zero. We haven't seen Sanji, and here he is talking with the boss. And I can't wait to see what happens next.
I feel like, to me, this chapter was... This volume, I mean. The volume had... It didn't have so much content issues, it had pacing issues.
Yeah.
That's fair. It could have been half of
I feel
volume.
like each concept in and of itself was good and could have been expanded on more, but the way that it was presented, I didn't care for. And I'll agree with you that the beginning was strong, the ending was strong, and the middle just got kind of muddled up.
Yeah.
But the core of it, like I said, at the core, the content itself isn't necessarily bad. It's just the way that it was executed that kind of, it fell flat. And it's strange to say that it fell flat because I feel like they tried to pack as much action and as much tropes and they tried to pack it so tight, and then it still somehow just didn't land. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely it does.
Yeah.
But yeah, my summary says this was actually an excellent way to wrap this volume up. It was a 10 out of 10 in action. It was a interesting conclusion. Like, it made me want to know more. And it was kind of crazy how heavily they fumbled the middle to me. Like, compared to what they had to start with and how they ended it, like, where did things go wrong? Again, the pacing is a great point, V. This is just what I wrote before we spoke. But, like, I don't know. It's just absurd to me that you could go this far off
track,
with what you set up. Yeah. And I'm glad they stuck the landing. It's like doing a quadruple backspring, but you just do one flip and suddenly the whole crowd's clapping for some reason.
It's like you start, your form is great when you start, you stick the landing perfectly, and the middle of it is kind of wobbly.
You just break your neck, and everyone's like, oh, yes. But that is what I had for chapter 126. We're going to go ahead and give our final thoughts here, and then I'm going to, of course, show you guys the cover art for the next volume. But I'm going to start with the summaries, and I'm not going to say anything I haven't already said. Great start. Last volume ended great. this volume ended great, but everything that happened in between, not everything, there were some high points in there, but do better. Be better. Little Garden was worse than Whiskey Peak. I would say as a whole.
I would agree.
We're not finished with it. We're not. We're approaching the conclusion. Spoiler alert.
It had potential to be a lot better than it was.
It squandered so much potential. And yeah, I really appreciate what Usopp brought to the table. I think that was my biggest takeaway, is that Usopp can still be surprising and fun. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a cheap summary or final thoughts, but that's what I got. V?
Yeah, I'm a little torn about this volume as a whole. I feel like, on the one hand, you know, as we've just pointed it out, the beginning was really strong, the ending was really strong, and throughout all of that, I feel like each character kind of got their own little shining moment. Like, we had, you know, a Sanji highlight at the very end. We did get Usopp, we did get Luffy, we did get Zoro, and even the girls, you know, when we see them coming out of the wax, like, every character kind of shone. And again, I'm repeating myself, but to me it wasn't necessarily a content issue. It was just the way that it was presented, and it's like they tried so hard to fit so much in one single volume that it didn't do any of it justice.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
And
too cluttered.
I think it's a little bit sad because there could have been a lot done with every single one of those concepts, and yet they didn't. So I don't want to say that it's my least favorite volume so far.
It was one of my least favorites.
It's one of my least favorite ones. I don't feel confident enough in saying that it was absolutely my least favorite.
Let me ask you this. Did you like it more or less than the last volume?
Less.
It's hard, right? Because it's been a dip. It definitely has.
It's
not as bad as Gaiman's Island, but
that wasn't a volume, though. That was one chapter.
But it kind of felt like that in a bit.
I feel like the 2 volumes ago in Whiskey Peak with the whole Zoro thing was, to me, a highlight. I really like that.
Yeah, I love that too.
The previous one took a dip, but at that point I was still hoping that they would pick it up. And then they didn't. They didn't pick it up in the way that I wanted them to. So, like, the previous one left me with some hope, and this one didn't fulfill the hope that I had. So to me, they're kind of they in my mind,
waffling.
I guess they're waffling, and I kind of smush both of them together because so many of the concepts are intertwined that it is a little bit hard for me. Like, and that's the thing, is I think in 10 volumes, I'm gonna have trouble identifying what was volume, you know, what was 14 and what was 13. You know, because it all kind of jumbles up together. Like, there's nothing that particularly is going to stand out as being unique to a specific volume because of the pacing. So, I certainly have my criticism. I also have my praises. There was a lot of good art. There was some very compelling and emotional moments with Brogy and Dory. But I know now how good One Piece can get because I've seen it happen before, and this is a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah,
it's not a I can't shit on it. It wasn't bad. It still entertained me. I'm never going to go back to these two this volume and the previous one. Like, I'm not interested in revisiting that. You know, when someone says Mr. 3, I'm gonna be like, who is that? Oh, the wax guy.
Oh, the fucking psychopath. Fucking weirdo.
Right.
And sniffs air.
But it didn't grab me in the way that I think it could have. So that's where I'm at with this. Dylan, last thoughts?
Yeah, like, between, like, this volume and the last one, I feel like the real driving force that I feel like Oda wanted it to be was the fight between the giants. And I feel like that was the narrative you wanted to have, but it just got so fucking, also, like, cluttered and also cluttered but muddled at the same time. Where it's like it got really watered down. Like, Mr. 3, the artwork for Mr. 3 was great, but all of his fucking talking, it's just like, for Christ's sake, you heard of me the whole episode. It's like, alright, Mr. 3 is monologuing again, whatever, moving on. It's just like, the motherfucker just yaps. It's like you could say less and do more for sure.
Right.
Like this is like, to me, Mr. 3 is on the same par with like the same par, maybe worse than Don Krieg. Or I'm almost at the point where it's just like, just shut the fuck up and have the final confrontation. Like I'm over it. Like all you're doing is fucking yapping, and like it's not adding anything to the story. You're just being like, haha, Mrs. 3, I'm so fucking good. Like, I have the wax candle. It's like, all right. Art. Yeah. It's like, it's art. I'm an artist. It's like, shut the fuck up. No one cares. I want you to die. You're a fucking creep. You sniff hair. In my head canon, you sniff hair. That's what you do. Anytime somebody walks by you, you're just like, it's like, you're weird. I don't like it. Get out of here. But like, to me, the thing that really like drew me into these past 2 volumes was Brogy and Dory, and like their whole thing about, like, I still really want to see Elbaf. That's what I really want to see. Like, I'm super interested in that. That was really cool. And I think part of the narrative was to cheapen it with the way Mr. 3 did. Like, his whole goal was to like interfere with it, cheapen it, make it not as good. Which I get that the bad guy's being a piece of shit, but it's like, fuck, you know. Like, again, I think this actually might be my least favorite volume so far. I think I can almost confidently say that. Because with Don Krieg got annoying and drawn out, but I also had the background. It's like, that's the Baratier, though. It's a fucking restaurant boat. That's cool. Whereas here, it's like, it's a jungle. Okay?
Yeah.
There's dinosaurs.
If I'm thinking solely of the setting, I will agree that I really like the Baratier setting also. In terms of, like, villain quality, I like the potential and the concept, except his hair, of Mr. 3. I think it's just more compelling, and he's overall just more evil. But
I agree with that, yeah. But it's like, the thing is, like, with Mr. 3 is just Mr. 3, whereas like Don Krieg, it's like we had Gin, and Gin had so much depth of character.
Yeah, he doesn't even have a Pearl. If we're being honest.
Pearl was a dog shit character, in my opinion, as well.
But she was
again,
so they didn't put a whole lot of. They didn't put a lot of emphasis on her. Again, they could have.
Yeah.
They could have made her better than she was.
Great enemy, but they hand waved the shit out of her. Yeah. It's like, oh, paint, color theory. Okay.
That's her chapter.
Yeah, he's naked. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Get out of here. It's just like, I'm excited for the next chapter, but I honestly, I think I could say with 100% confidence this volume was the most lackluster we've had. Like, the only thing that was drawing me in was the fight between the giants, and I was like, that's really cool. And then I had the snippets of moments with like Usopp, Karoo, and Luffy, and like, I also like with Sanji. It's like, if Sanji like had shown up with the power we've seen from Sanji, he probably could have handled the fucking Candelabra easily. I feel like he could have kicked through that shit. With what we've seen from him, I think he would have handled that very easily. And it's just like, the ending where it's like, oh, cool, it's a nice cliffhanger. It seemed like a really cheap cop-out. Like, oh, here's Sanji. Oh, he's talking to the big bad. Ooh, that's cool, right?
I thought that was cool.
I mean, it's cool, but then again, it felt cheap as shit at the same time.
They could have done both.
It felt cheap as shit at the same time. Like, why would he, especially when women are involved, he's not willing to wait around that long. Like, he knew Vivi and Nami are out there. After a day, he would be like, no, I need to figure shit out.
How long was it, though? Like, that's
I assume it's been like a couple days at least.
I don't think it's been a couple days. I think it's been at least or at tops, a day and a half.
Oh, shit. 6 hours he'd probably been out there. This motherfucker is simp.
It may even be less.
But yeah, very lackluster. I'm still there for it, but this one I'm kind of unimpressed by. There were moments that were like super great, and it's like, oh, the fucking 3-page of like the final blow against Dory was like, ooh, okay, I'm gonna keep reading. But if not for moments like that, it could have been very close to be like, this is boring.
I feel like the end of the volume did redeem it in the sense that I'm looking forward to finding out
the end of the volume did
what's going to happen now with Mr. Zero and Sanji being in that position. Like, they Oda did a good job at kind of rekindling that interest, but I mean, I feel like we shouldn't have been put in that position in the first place where we felt that kind of...
You shouldn't have had to try that hard to bring my interest back.
Yeah.
Right.
I will say a lot of the art was very fucking good. There was a lot of really impressive art in this volume, but it's just like all the fucking meat and potatoes were lacking hard as shit. That's all I got.
All right, let me before we go on to the next cover here, because I think that'll take seconds because it doesn't have anything exciting. I've said it before. There are going to be moments of disappointment. I was disappointed, and I've read it before. I think that certain parts of One Piece get worse before they get better. I think we have yet to peak. We have not seen the absolute best that One Piece has to offer, but
that's promising.
I also don't think you guys have seen the bottom either.
Ooh, that's promising and also super disheartening at the same time.
So I would say we're closer to the bottom than we have been to the peak.
Okay.
A little less disheartening,
take that for what you
want. So Arlong Park was great.
There is a series of 3 arcs back to back to back that is some of the greatest storytelling I've ever seen. And that, I think, is what really, really makes One Piece where it is today. East Blue was great. What we're in right now is good. What we're about to see is going to be really fucking good. I think you guys are going to like the conclusion to this arc, but we'll see. I'm going to let you guys make your own decision. So I'm going to leave it at that. But I want to thank you both for being here. I'm gonna make this quick. I do not think you're going to have more than a couple sentences to say. I would like to show you the cover art for the next volume. Do you see anything that strikes you here?
I mean,
I see Dory and
I
Brogy.
see the giants who are supposed to not.
Well, one of them's dead, from what I understand.
Yeah.
I like it. It's striking.
I like the symmetry. Right. I like the symmetry of it.
It also makes a lot of sense where it's like, oh, it's the 2 giants and it's the 2 people who care the most about the giant struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like that Luffy and Usopp are at the forefront, but I
like
guess
that
I'm
Usopp's
wondering,
more main focus because Usopp is like really drew a lot from their fight. Like he was super inspired by it.
He was, yeah.
Whereas Luffy's like, I understand.
It's a little weird to me because to me, by the end of the volume that we just finished, we were done with the giants.
Yeah. Yeah, this point dead.
So I'm like, why are we bringing them?
This boy on the right
back?
Is fucking just dead.
Yeah. Interesting.
Oh, more fake out deaths?
Last thoughts? Maybe.
Yeah, not happy about that if that's the case. Like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, I also wouldn't be thrilled.
Alright. Any last words on this?
No last thoughts. This was, I think, as we've agreed on, a little bit of a dip, but I feel like considering where we are finishing this volume, I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen in
I think you're going to like the next arc.
Hopefully
I think there's going to be some disappointment, just being straight up, but I think overall you're going to like it more.
The next volume is 10 chapters.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well, that'll give us a good place to break. But, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and bring a close to this. I'm going to lift the embargo on volume 15. I want to say thank you to my lovely co-host, V and Dylan.
Hello.
I want to say thank you to everyone who's still listening or even listened in the first place.
For sure.
Thank you. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Discord. As for now, bon voyage.
Bon voyage.
Ciao, Bella.